Naruto. Kidnapping Rin Nohara to create the strongest Kirigakure. Chapter 21. Even on the battlefield, Hazuka Asuka wore expensive custom combat attire, maintaining the dignity of the Hazuka young clan head. Hazuka Asuka had been in the Hidden Mist camp just now, and seeing that they hadn't returned for a long time, he worried they had run into an ambush and came personally to check. It wasn't that he cared much about his teammates, rather, the war in the land of hot springs would affect his reputation, and he couldn't afford a failure. He glanced at the corpses filling the village, then at the tense standoff between the two sides, and roughly guessed what had happened. Hey, boss, this Kagaya brat actually attacked me just now. What do we do? Seeing him approach, Kirigakure Kushimaru immediately yelled loudly. He had previously heard about the interrogation of Kagaya Tetsu and knew Hazuka Asuka had been humiliated, so he wanted to stir up trouble now. Hazuka Asuka guessed his intention but didn't reply. He was secretly astonished. Kirigakure Kushimaru's swordsmanship wasn't weak, yet he was injured by Kagaya Tetsu. How strong had this guy become? Mai Terumi put her hands on her hips and raised her chin at Hazuka Asuka. What? Feeling unconvinced. She had never liked the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist, who were cruel and bloodthirsty, nor would she pretend to be friendly. Most importantly, Hazuka Asuka had repeatedly made things difficult during Kagaya Tetsu's interrogation, which had greatly annoyed her. If these three insisted on starting a conflict today, she wouldn't mind seeing it through to the end. Anyway, internal strife among Kirigakure ninja was considered a glorious tradition. Hazuka Asuka chuckled, putting on a magnanimous appearance. It's just a small misunderstanding. We are all people from the village, so why talk about being convinced or not? Captain Mai Terumi, we will wait at the main camp first. You should hurry and join us. Having said that, he gave a look to Kirigakure Kushimaru and Munashi Jinpachi, and led them away first. The two were still resentful, glaring fiercely at Kagaya Tetsu before reluctantly following. Turning his back, Hazuka Asuka's eyes were filled with malice and resentment. He knew the Kagaya clan had coveted the Mizukage position for a long time and had been secretly plotting. Now that Kagaya Tetsu, this super genius, had emerged, it would definitely make those hot-headed brutes act rashly. I must take this opportunity to completely eliminate that guy. He secretly made up his mind. Once they had gone far away, Mai Terumi said worriedly to Kagaya Tetsu. Tetsu, you must be careful during this time. Those guys are capable of anything. She sensed the killing intent from Hazuka Asuka, but since the opponent hadn't made a move, she couldn't proactively do anything either. Kagaya Tetsu licked his lips, his fingers lightly stroking the hilt of his sword. May, I'm actually hoping they try to do something. A slightly manic smile spread across his lips, the unique smile belonging to the Kagaya clan. Ever since Hazuka Asuka challenged him last time, he had already made a decision. This person must not be allowed to live. Inside the Hidden Mist camp, Hazuka Asuka stood before the various squads, explaining the details of the mission. Quite the grand operation. Kagaya Tetsu was also in the crowd, silently observing the surrounding Kirigakure ninja. Besides the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist, there were dozens of Hidden Mist squads participating in this operation. To launch a surprise attack, they had all departed separately from the land of water and gathered within the land of hot springs. It seemed the Hidden Mist village was determined to seize the land of hot springs. In summary, you all will attack the capital of hot water from the front, while the 7 of us will circle around to the rear of the Konoha squad to deliver a fatal blow. Finally, we will take the land of hot springs in one fell swoop and turn the tide of the war. After Hazuka Asuka finished speaking, he spread his arms to everyone, showing an infectious smile. Unlike the other ninja swordsmen, he always focused on maintaining a positive and sunny persona, paving the way for himself to become the 4th Mizukage. After the mission briefing concluded, the squads dispersed, and Kagaya Tetsu walked up to Hazuka Asuka. Lord Asuka, I would like to accompany the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist on this mission. He directly stated his request. Mai Terumi and Hazuka Asuka were both stunned. Kagaya Tetsu, you are part of my squad. What sense does it make to act with others? Mai Terumi immediately frowned and tried to stop him, unable to understand what Kagaya Tetsu was thinking. Hazuka Asuka was likely determined to kill him, yet he was actively jumping into the trap. Hazuka Asuka watched him with interest. Che-kun, why? Kagaya Tetsu grinned. I heard the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist fight very wildly, and I want to see it. If anyone else gave this reason, it would feel contradictory, but coming from a member of the Kagaya clan, it was perfectly reasonable. People of this clan not only enjoy fighting themselves but also enjoy watching others fight. Furthermore, Hazuka Asuka guessed that this brat was very ambitious and held a grudge against him. He probably wasn't content to watch the 7 of them monopolize the biggest achievement and wanted to get involved to claim some spoils. Normally, the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist never cooperated with outsiders, but this time, Hazuka Asuka agreed. If Captain Mei Terumi has no objection, I am fine with it. This was a perfect opportunity to get rid of Kagaya Tetsu and should not be missed. Even if Kagaya Tetsu had some hidden agenda, he was no match for the 7 of them. After speaking, he walked straight out, leaving the 2 to discuss it themselves. Mei Terumi immediately questioned Kagaya Tetsu. Was proposing this idea intentional or accidental? Kagaya Tetsu didn't intend to hide it from her. Intentional. Mei Terumi had actually vaguely guessed his intentions, but hearing him admit it still made her find it hard to believe. Tetsu, are you trying to infiltrate the 7 ninja swordsmen and take care of Hazuka Asuka by yourself? There are 7 of them, that's too reckless. I'm going to find Hazuka Asuka right now and tell him you're not going. You'll stick with us. Kagaya Tetsu stopped her and said seriously. Mei, you are someone who is going to become Mizukage. Don't let something like this affect your reputation. Don't worry, I have a plan. He was almost certain that this mission was the disastrous defeat where they encountered might die, and Hazuka Asuka was precisely the unnamed member of the first generation of the 7 ninja swordsmen. Hazuka Asuka would be killed by Might Dai anyway, all he needed to do was add fuel to the fire. If worse came to worst, he still had the Mayfly technique, allowing him to escape at any time with virtually no risk. Hearing Kagaya Tetsu confidently state that she would become Mizukage, Mei Terumi inexplicably blushed, and then said. Promise me, if things go wrong, pull back immediately. Having grown up with Kagaya Tetsu, she knew her companion's personality. Once he made a decision, it was hard to change. Meanwhile, in the capital of Hot Water, 2 figures wearing green spandex were running wildly through the streets with their hands on the ground in a strange posture, drawing stares. Several familiar Konoha ninja passed by, bowing their heads, afraid the 2 would greet them. After all, they were the Might family's psychos, and no one wanted to be associated with them. Dad, I can't keep going. The 12-year-old Might guy's hands began to tremble. Might Dai's encouraging voice came from beside him. Guy, we've only just circled the capital of Hot Water twice. This isn't the time to say you're tired. Burning oneself out, that is the true springtime of youth. Might Guy was moved by his father's passion, and tears of excitement instantly streamed down his face. I will fight for the springtime of youth, Dad. Guy. Dad. While sprinting passionately, the 2 were suddenly blocked by a Konoha ninja. Might Dai quickly stood straight, looking respectfully at the person. The ninja in front of him looked less than 20 years old but was already a chunin, making him Might Dai's superior. Might Guy, immediately go with Shiranui Genma and Ebisu to patrol the southern forest. He glanced contemptuously at the father and son and gave the order. Might Guy was startled. Squad leader, aren't you coming? This chunin was the squad leader of his squad, and patrol missions should normally be led by the squad leader. The chunin squad leader waved his hand impatiently. I have other things to do. You guys can handle this simple mission yourselves. He cursed his bad luck internally. Not only were the 3 genin assigned to him all civilians, but one was the Might family oddball. He had been mocked by his colleagues several times because of this, and leading such a squad was a complete waste of time. Might Dai heavily patted his son's shoulder. Guy, the squad leader trusts you enough to let you handle this alone. Don't let down that trust. Don't worry, father, I will definitely live up to Captain's trust. Well said. Work hard and become a chunin, Guy. Father. Guy. The father and son embraced, crying, while Guy's captain quickly retreated, afraid of getting splashed by tears. Wiping away his tears, Might Guy rushed to find his 2 teammates. Might Dai looked at his retreating figure with relief. I'm sorry, Guy, Dad is too incompetent. Might Dai's sunny smile disappeared, replaced by a look of dejection. He knew he wasn't smart, but he could still read people's expressions. Guy's captain didn't like that child, did he? It was his fault for wasting half his life and still being a genin, constantly subjected to Byakugan and ridicule, with no one even willing to team up with him, which also caused his son to be looked down upon. But he firmly believed that his son would surpass him in the future. Suddenly, he slapped his forehead. Oh no, I'm going to be late. He had a part-time manual labor job, usually transporting goods at the Land of Hot Springs' dock. When this month's salary comes in, I must take Guy to a hot spring. Might Dai rushed to the dock, unconsciously sporting a happy smile. In the southern land of hot water forest, 3 small figures were moving through it. Guy, you fellow, slow down. Ebisu pushed his sunglasses up, complaining loudly. Shiranui Genma didn't say anything, but his heavy breathing indicated he was also running out of stamina. Sorry. Might Guy quickly stopped and bowed to his 2 companions. This kind of travel was not even a warm-up for him, but for his 2 companions, it was a torment. Might Guy fumbled in his pocket and carefully pulled out a wad of paper, which, when opened, contained several soldier pills. My father gave these to me. If you're tired, eat some to replenish your stamina. The Might family was not wealthy. After his father gave him these soldier pills, Might Guy had been reluctant to eat them. He flashed his bright white teeth, but didn't notice Ebisu's slightly disgusted look. These soldier pills looked like they had been stored for a long time. He was afraid of becoming a projectile warrior if he ate them. Just as he was about to decline, a boom suddenly echoed from afar, startling a large flock of birds in the forest. Something's happening, Might Guy exclaimed, rushing forward first, with his 2 companions close behind. A few minutes ago, Keigaya Tetsu followed behind the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist. Kuriarare Kushimaru and Munashi Jinpachi occasionally looked back at him, their eyes full of the playful mockery of a cat before it catches a mouse. Hazuka Asuka ran at the very front, his killing intent growing stronger. He had already discussed with the other 6 to eliminate Keigaya Tetsu in this forest. No one liked the Keigaya clan, and no one liked a Keigaya genius who might become the strongest in the hidden mist, so everyone readily agreed. Just as Keigaya Tetsu's brain was controlled by battle instinct, he was foolish enough to actively move with them. Even if he was killed, no one would notice anything amiss. This is the place, perfect for a fight. Hazuka Asuka saw an open clearing in the forest 100 meters ahead and secretly signaled the others. At this moment, an unexpected change occurred. Keigaya Tetsu let out a soft cry. 10-finger piercing bullet. Whoosh, 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 sounds of air being torn apart rang out continuously as dozens of bone bullets rapidly attacked the backs of the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist. They exerted force in their waists, forcibly twisted their bodies, and raised their swords to block. Most of the bone bullets were blocked and deflected into the trees, sending wood chips flying everywhere, but a few bone bullets still hit their targets. Mangetsu Hazuka and Raiga Kurosuke bled from their chests and abdomens, their expressions pained. Keigaya Tetsu, are you crazy? Hazuka Asuka exclaimed. He was just about to make his move on Keigaya Tetsu, but he didn't expect the opponent to attack first. Keigaya Tetsu smiled faintly, his short blade already in his hand. The act is good enough, continuing it would be boring. His malice perception easily observed Hazuka Asuka's emotional changes. When Hazuka Asuka's killing intent reached its peak, Keigaya Tetsu knew it was time to strike. Seeing that Keigaya Tetsu was no longer pretending, Hazuka Asuka sneered. Alright, I'll send you to the Pure Land right here. He made a hand sign, and 7 ninja swords simultaneously attacked Keigaya Tetsu. Early Fern Dance. Keigaya Tetsu formed a hand seal, and the surrounding trees began to shake gently, as if something was about to break through the ground. HMPH, this move won't work on us. Hazuka Asuka had already informed the 6 about the early Fern Dance. At this moment, Mangetsu Hazuka endured his injuries and stepped forward, raising the blunt sword, Kabutowari, which resembled a heavy hammer, and smashed it fiercely into the ground. The earth shook violently, dust and gravel flew, and a powerful shockwave spread from top to bottom. Keigaya Tetsu's bones were shattered before they could even break through the ground. As expected, this move isn't very effective against true powerhouses. Keigaya Tetsu secretly evaluated the performance of the early Fern Dance. Although this move was formidable, it was mainly convenient for clearing out miscellaneous soldiers. If the opponent was prepared, it would be difficult to achieve results. However, he didn't expect to use this to defeat the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist. That move just now was only meant to attract the attention of the protagonist. You all step back, he's mine. Kurihara Kushimaru had long been unable to restrain himself. Seeing Keigaya Tetsu's big move prove ineffective, he charged forward with a wild laugh. His slender body was as fast as lightning, and the nimble long sword, Nuibari, maximized his speed advantage, transforming into a streak of light that pierced towards Keigaya Tetsu's chest. He believed that his previous injury was just a sneak attack. This time, being prepared, Keigaya Tetsu couldn't possibly be his match. Keigaya Tetsu remained calm, simply flicking his short blade. The blade swept past at a strange angle, precisely slashing towards Kurihara Kushimaru's sword-wielding hand. Not good. He was forced to stop his attack, changing from a direct thrust to an upward slash, narrowly blocking Keigaya Tetsu's blade. A few drops of sweat seeped from his masked face, and Kurihara Kushimaru felt incredible. He was also an experienced swordsman and easily saw through it. That sword technique just now, he seemed to have seen it before. When was it? Kurihara Kushimaru quickly remembered. During the Second Great Ninja War, as a Kirigakure Anbu, he had ventured deep into the continent to gather intelligence on Konoha village. At that time, he happened to observe Tsukumo Hataki's battle with a group of Sunagakure ninja from the shadows. The dancing figure of the Konoha White Fang and the numerous corpses of sand ninja were deeply etched in his mind. He remembered now, Keigaya Tetsu's swordsmanship was very similar to Tsukumo Hataki's. But how could a Keigaya brat know Tsukumo Hataki's swordsmanship? As far as he knew, not many people in Konoha knew it. Before he could think further, Keigaya Tetsu's new round of attacks began. The seemingly ordinary short blade came alive in Keigaya Tetsu's hands, attacking from various unexpected angles, so fast that he couldn't react at all. In just a few seconds, Kurihara Kushimaru had already sustained several injuries, while Keigaya Tetsu was completely unharmed. Tsukumo Hataki truly earned his reputation for cutting through the ninja world with just one sword. Keigaya Tetsu sighed inwardly. Even the entry-level White Fang blade technique could put Kurihara Kushimaru in such a sorry state. Killing Kurihara Kushimaru with his current strength was not difficult. If he added the mayfly technique, in a forest environment, taking out 2 or 3 more people wouldn't be a problem. But he planned to conserve some strength before the true protagonists arrived. After all, his goal today was not to have 4 of the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist die, as in the original story. For the smoother control of the hidden mist village in the future, it would be better if this cunning and unruly organization was completely wiped out. Hazuka Asuka saw that the situation was not right and, disregarding Kurihara Kushimaru's words for them to retreat, was about to signal the other 6 to attack together when he suddenly heard rustling sounds nearby. 3 brats wearing Konoha headbands stood not far away. Upon seeing them, they turned and ran. Chase them quickly. Hazuka Asuka immediately ordered. They had attacked their own comrade. If this got out to the Konoha ninja, the consequences would be unimaginable. Keigaya Tetsu also noticed this scene, a smile playing on his lips. They're finally here. The 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist still hadn't learned an important lesson. Don't mess with Konoha genin. It's over, it's over, it's over. Ebisu ran for his life, his heart pounding in his throat, secretly regretting meddling. Just now, they heard a loud thud in the forest, and the 3 of them came to investigate. What did they see? The 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist. He never expected the hidden mist village's most elite group to suddenly appear here. He had a premonition that death was not far off. He should have disposed of those photo magazines in the dorm earlier. Ebisu, Genma, we can definitely escape. Seeing his 2 teammates in a panic, Might Guy spoke to comfort them. He was actually very scared too. Those were the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist, who killed without batting an eye. Who knew how many Jonin had died by their hands? He wasn't even enough to fill their teeth. But Might Guy reminded himself to stay calm. At least he had to bring back the intelligence about the 7 ninja swordsmen of the Mist's appearance, so as not to betray his captain's trust. Just then, he suddenly saw a figure appear ahead and quickly stopped. Munashi Jinpachi had already circled in front of the three, his exploding blade Shibuki, covered in exploding tags, casually propped on the ground. TCH, so it's just a bunch of brats. He showed disappointment. You stinking brats, you actually delayed my chance to kill my enemy. Think about how to compensate me. Munashi Jinpachi had originally wanted to participate in the siege of Kagaya Tetsu and personally kill that annoying guy, but he was unexpectedly sent by Hazuka Asuka to intercept a few brats. It was understandable how unhappy he was. He swung the exploding blade fiercely at Might Guy and the two others. With a loud bang, the flames of the exploding tags illuminated the forest. Through the smoke and dust, Munashi Jinpachi did not find the bodies of the three. Looking at the other side, the brat wearing the watermelon rind clothes actually pulled one companion with each hand, dodging more than 10 meters away by a hair's breadth. Are you alright? Might Guy quickly asked his companions. Their legs were so weak they couldn't stand up. If Might Guy hadn't pulled them away just now, they would have been shattered to pieces. Seeing that his two teammates were unharmed, and Munashi Jinpachi was about to swing his blade again, Might Guy gritted his teeth and stood up. He was preparing to use the 8 gates. Although he had only learned the first 3 gates and was not proficient, using it rashly carried great risks. But for the village and his teammates, Might Guy was resolute. Munashi Jinpachi was about to swing his blade again when he suddenly heard a deep voice from behind. It's not right to bully children like this. He turned his head and saw a man in a green jumpsuit standing there. Munashi Jinpachi was startled. How fast was this person, that even he didn't react? Dad, why are you here? Might Guy was still a child, after all. Seeing his father appear, he felt a sense of reliance, and his nose immediately felt sore. Might Guy scratched his head and smiled a little sheepishly. I just got paid for moving goods and bought some takoyaki. I wanted to bring it to you, but I didn't expect to encounter something like this. He finished speaking and gave a thumbs up, his white teeth shining in the sunlight. Guy, you take them and go first. I'll handle things here, Dad. Shiranui Genma quietly reminded Might Guy, Guy, isn't Uncle a genin? He can't handle it. No sooner had he spoken than Might Guy's demeanor changed. Gate of pain, open. A vast current of chakra diffused, gently swaying the trees. Might Guy's skin rapidly turned red, and a faint green energy emanated from his entire body. This was the 4th gate of the 8 gates, and also the beginning of physical damage. Facing opponents like the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist, Might Guy had no intention of holding back. Ha! What kind of strange move is this? Munashi Jinpachi was showing a disdainful smile when his expression suddenly changed. The ridiculously dressed man moved, turning into a green dot and shooting towards him. By the time Munashi Jinpachi reacted, it felt as if an elephant had slammed into his face. His body flew uncontrollably, crashing through 5 or 6 large trees with loud bangs. Guy, you quickly go back to the capital of hot water and warn everyone. After forcing back the enemy, Might Guy softly reminded his son. Might Guy clenched his fists and asked. Dad, what about you? Might Guy said firmly. The hidden mist village secretly came to the land of hot springs. There must be more than just this guy here. I need to stop them first to buy the Konoha squad in the capital of hot water time to react. Seeing his son try to dissuade him, Might Guy patted his shoulder heavily. To burn everything for the village and comrades, that is the youth a man should have. At this, Ebisu and Shiranui Genma both burst into tears. They knew that Uncle Dai's departure meant more bad than good, and regretted secretly mocking him before. Guy, however, clenched his teeth, refusing to cry. Dad, I will work hard. With that, he quickly left with his 2 teammates. You, who exactly are you? At this moment, Munashi Jinpachi struggled to get up from the ground, large streams of blood flowing from his mouth. This guy just said he was moving some goods, clearly a laborer, so how could he be so strong? Might Guy appeared before him again with teleportation-like speed, throwing a punch and saying softly. Just a Konoha genin. While Munashi Jinpachi was being brutally beaten, the other 6 ninja swordsmen were not having an easy time either. After besieging Keigaya Tetsu for a long time, not only did they fail to deal with this brat, but several of them also sustained serious injuries. What exactly did this fool go through? Hazuka Asuka was shocked. He had also witnessed the White Fang blade technique of Konoha, so when he saw Keigaya Tetsu's bizarre and tricky attacks, he suspected he was dreaming. There was no mistake. Although Keigaya Tetsu's blade technique was like heaven and earth compared to Konoha's White Fang, every move was clearly Tsukumo Hataki's style. Moreover, Keigaya Tetsu seemed to have mastered some powerful earth-release ninjutsu. He would shrink into the earth during a fight, silently, and then launch an attack from an unexpected angle. Relying on the White Fang blade technique, Mayfly technique, and the complex forest environment, Keigaya Tetsu actually fought 7 of them, exchanging blows back and forth. That guy should be here by now, right? Keigaya Tetsu thought this, sidestepping a slash from Suikazan Fuguki, and then counter-stabbed, leaving a cut on his thigh. Asuka, this guy is very strange. We can't keep going like this. Suikazan Fuguki grimaced in pain, loudly reminding Hazuka Asuka. Hazuka Asuka was also anxious, wondering why Munashi Jinpachi hadn't returned yet. Had he also encountered a problem? Helplessly, he ordered the others. Don't hold back anymore, we must deal with this brat. The few of them still had to go to the capital of hot water to deal with Konoha, so they had been holding back. Now Hazuka Asuka realized they couldn't drag this out any longer. The 6 were about to unleash their ultimate moves when they suddenly saw a figure flying in from an oblique direction. Munashi Jinpachi. Kuriarare Kushimaru's eyes were sharp, and he quickly recognized his partner. Munashi Jinpachi's chest was caved in, and his head was flattened, clearly having suffered severe injuries. He was no longer breathing. Hazuka Asuka's eyes widened. In just a few minutes, who had the ability to instantly kill Munashi Jinpachi? He soon learned the answer. Gate of Wonder, open. Might Dai, having dealt with Munashi Jinpachi, rushed over and saw the remaining ninja swordsman, activating the 6th gate without hesitation. Morning Peacock. His fist shot out at supersonic speed, causing bursts of sonic booms. The friction between his fists and the air at high speed generated large flames. Retreat quickly. Hazuka Asuka didn't know who this madman in front of him was, only that if they didn't retreat now, they would be in trouble. Fists carrying flames and shockwaves created dozens of afterimages in midair, like a peacock's tail feathers blooming. The lush forest seemed to be swept by a storm. Thick trees were mercilessly snapped, and green leaves caught fire, burning fiercely like a scene from hell. So, a man can be this beautiful. Keigaya Tetsu looked at Might Dai's godlike figure and softly sighed. He had already used the Mayfly technique to slip away to a distance, now watching the show and commenting. It's a pity that if both the Might father and son were present during the 4th Great Ninja War, with one kick each, the ending might have been brought forward. While he was leisurely watching, Hazuka Asuka was fully resisting Might Dai's attacks, barely able to fight back. You're just an ordinary ninja, why are you risking your life? He tried to shake Might Dai's resolve. Might Dai was also covered in wounds at this point, frantically pushing his body to its limits. Coupled with the hidden mist ninja swordsman's attacks, he couldn't last much longer. However, he still managed to force out a faint smile. People like you won't understand my youth. 7th gate, open. Is that even human? This thought popped into Hazuka Asuka's mind. Might Dai was emitting blue steam all over his body, his eyes were bloodshot, and every meridian in his body seemed on the verge of bursting out, making him look like a true demon. Just a few minutes ago, the opponent was merely an unknown nobody in his eyes, but now Hazuka Asuka's pride was utterly shattered, leaving him with only one thought. Run. The 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist was never a harmonious or friendly organization. Seeing the others entangled, Hazuka Asuka seized the opportunity to turn and flee. Get back. Kuriarare Kushimaru was about to follow suit when a deep roar suddenly echoed in his ears. Daytime Tiger. He saw nothing, his consciousness instantly disconnected, plunging him into eternal darkness. Raiga Kurokiba, who stood nearby, was dumbfounded. The Konoha ninja had only moved once, and by the time Raiga Kurokiba regained his senses, Kuriarare Kushimaru's head had been violently struck by a fist, bursting open like a watermelon. Raiga Kurokiba, proficient in lightning release ninjutsu and extremely fast, was about to flee when he saw a blue fierce tiger roaring towards him, the gale stirred by the fist utterly engulfing him. Suikazan Fuguki, who had been standing on the periphery, felt his fat tremble slightly, drenched in cold sweat from fear. This mysterious ninja's combat power far exceeded his comprehension. It was time to escape. With a splash, he merged with Samahata, transforming into a merman, and dove into the nearby river, swimming away rapidly. Who? Might Dai exhaled plumes of white mist, his body covered in red liquid. That was sweat seeping out after his blood had been vaporized. His consciousness was blurry, every cell in his body was being tormented relentlessly, sustained only by sheer willpower. Might Dai looked at the 5 corpses at his feet. Except for Suikazan Fuguki, he had dealt with all the other Kirigakure ninja. No, that's not right, there should be one more. He saw Hazuka Asuka's back, the opponent had already fled several hundred meters. With a stomp of his feet, the ground shattered, and Might Dai charged furiously in Hazuka Asuka's direction. Hazuka Asuka thought he had escaped, but his breathing suddenly tightened, and the surrounding airflow seemed to halt. The next second, Might Dai's heavy punch hit the bullseye, accurately striking his spine. Might Dai was surprised to see the enemy turn into a puddle of water, his attack having no effect. I'm not that easy to kill. Hazuka Asuka, having used the hydrification secret technique, dodged the fatal attack, quickly reformed into human shape, and continued to sprint. Might Dai pursued relentlessly, hitting him several more times, but each time Hazuka Asuka turned part of his body into water, rendering his physical attacks ineffective. After all, he's just an idiot who only knows taijutsu. Hazuka Asuka was greatly pleased. He could also tell that Might Dai wouldn't last much longer. If he could just make the opponent miss a few more times, he would be the final victor. Just as he thought victory was within his grasp, a person suddenly emerged from a tree trunk in front of him. Keigaya Tetsu. Hazuka Asuka's mouth fell open. He hadn't seen Keigaya Tetsu at all and thought the opponent had already slipped away. This kid had used that strange ninjutsu again. He could not only burrow underground but also hide inside wood, making him silent and impossible to guard against. Lord Asuka, I've been waiting for you for a long time. Keigaya Tetsu chuckled, drew a bone blade from his right arm, and swung it heavily at him. You inherently evil Keigaya brat, are you still thinking of killing me at a time like this? Keigaya Tetsu appeared too suddenly, and Hazuka Asuka could not stop his steps, watching helplessly as the bone blade struck. But he was not flustered in the slightest. In front of the hydrification technique, all physical attacks were ineffective. Until he saw a flash of electric light on Keigaya Tetsu's bone blade. Splash! The bone blade struck his arm. Hazuka Asuka activated the hydrification technique again, but found his body tingling, and more than half of his body failed to liquefy. At the same time, Might Dai's fist arrived. Boom! This hit landed squarely on the back of Hazuka Asuka's head. His eyes were nearly knocked out of their sockets, and his body fell to the ground like a ragdoll. The moment he was heavily struck, Might Dai also collapsed to the ground. A moment later, under Hazuka Asuka's despairing gaze, Keigaya Tetsu slowly approached. His bones were almost completely shattered by Might Dai, he couldn't even move a finger. Why do you know the weakness of the hydrification technique? This was Hazuka Asuka's last question. The weakness of the hydrification technique was electricity. If he hadn't been struck by Keigaya Tetsu's bone blade infused with lightning release, he wouldn't have been defeated so miserably. Keigaya Tetsu smiled slightly, guess. The bone blade fell, piercing the face filled with unwillingness. What a pity, one still got away. After dealing with Hazuka Asuka, Keigaya Tetsu sighed softly. His original plan was to first weaken the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist, then wait for Might Dai to appear and wipe them all out. Everyone in this organization was a traitor, yet they were strong. Coupled with the grudge between himself and Hazuka Asuka, Keigaya Tetsu had long wanted to use someone else to kill him. He had been observing the entire battle from the shadows, but he hadn't expected Samahata to be so effective, allowing Suikazan Fuguki to escape successfully. But it was enough. With Hazuka Asuka dead and the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist virtually annihilated, no one would pose a major threat to him for now. Controlling the hidden mist village later would probably be much easier. Keigaya Tetsu took out a sealing scroll and collected all 6 ninja swords, then placed his hand on Hazuka Asuka's chest. You touched Hazuka Asuka's chest and received a reward. Water release, water gun technique. It's this, actually. Keigaya Tetsu raised an eyebrow, a little surprised. The water gun technique was also a secret technique of the Hazuka clan, allowing them to fire bullet-like liquid from their fingers, possessing great power. Perhaps it can be combined with 10-finger piercing bullet. Keigaya Tetsu had a new idea. But now was not the time to develop ninjutsu. He walked over to Might Dai. Thanks to his covert assistance, Might Dai's battle was somewhat easier than it would have been, and he didn't open the final gate of death. But even so, the 8 gates still nearly killed him. Might Dai's hair had turned white, his muscles twitched mechanically, and trickles of blood flowed from his ears and nose. This genin, after all, had burned out. Dad didn't disgrace you. Might Dai uttered a voice as faint as a mosquito's hum. After speaking his last words, he had no strength left and completely fell unconscious. Looking at this dying eternal genin, Keigaya Tetsu's mood was also somewhat complex. Might Dai was definitely a good person, and his talent could be considered top tier, but unfortunately, he was born in Konoha. As the lighthouse of the ninja world, Konoha possessed too many geniuses and too many powerful clans, whose brilliance was enough to cover the entire world. But that brilliance also completely obscured countless ordinary ninja. However, luckily you met me. Keigaya Tetsu took out a handful of soldier pills and stuffed them all into Might Dai's mouth. This guy's meridians and bones were completely shattered. Even if he survived, he would probably be a cripple, but Keigaya Tetsu still had a use for him. I wonder how the battle is going for Mei Terumi. Keigaya Tetsu no longer paid attention to Might Dai and looked in the direction of the capital of hot water. Even if he hadn't intervened, the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist would have suffered their destined defeat, so the Hidden Mist Village's plan was doomed to fail. As he pondered, a few caw sounds came from midair. Keigaya Tetsu looked up and saw a white seagull. The seagull's tail feathers were a peculiar blue. Keigaya Tetsu recognized it at a glance as Mei Terumi's summoning beast. Seeing Keigaya Tetsu, the seagull swooped down, revealing a piece of paper tied to its leg. Keigaya Tetsu quickly took it off and unfolded it. There were only a few words on it. Body flicker Shisui has appeared, run fast. During the Third Great Ninja War, there was an unwritten rule among the nations of the ninja world. If they encountered 2 specific Konoha ninja, retreating would not incur punishment. One was Minato Namikaze, known as the Yellow Flash, and the other was Uchiha Shisui. Why are Uchiha people here? Ao stood on a small hill, frowning as he watched the retreating Mist Village troops, followed closely by members of the Uchiha clan. He was the general commander of the Hidden Mist Village's attack on the capital of Hot Water this time. The plan was smooth at first. They arrived unexpectedly beneath the capital of Hot Water and easily dealt with all the perimeter guards. Unexpectedly, at that moment, countless fire release jutsu rained down from the sky, and many Kirigakure ninja suddenly widened their eyes, their limbs stiffening, leaving them vulnerable to the Konoha ninja. Fortunately, Mei Terumi noticed the problem in time and shouted a warning. There are Uchiha here. Don't look at their eyes. This was far beyond the expectations of the Mist Village troops, as Konoha had never previously deployed the Uchiha to coastal areas. The reason was simple. Battles in coastal regions often involved the Hidden Mist, and the Uchiha, who specialized in fire release, were naturally countered by Kirigakure ninja. So Ao did not panic. If they were only facing a group of Uchiha reinforcements, the situation was still under control. Then he saw Uchiha Shisui. The moment that guy appeared, 7 or 8 Kirigakure ninja died instantly. Afterward, he moved like a phantom, weaving through the crowds on the battlefield, effortlessly harvesting the lives of the Mist Village troops. In just over 10 minutes, the Mist Village troops, who had held a strong advantage, began to fall into chaos. Coupled with the fact that the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist had not yet appeared, Ao reluctantly gave the order to retreat. But the Konoha forces clearly didn't intend to let them leave. Just as they were being tied down by Uchiha Shisui, another Konoha squad had circled around, completely surrounding the Kirigakure ninja. The land of hot springs is mountainous, and the capital of hot water is situated in a valley. With the Konoha ninja cutting off their escape route, the Kirigakure ninja ran the risk of complete annihilation. Konoha's commander is much stronger than ours. Mei Terumi complained under her breath, opening her mouth toward the front. Boil release. Skilled mist technique. High-temperature acidic mist capable of melting rock spewed forth. The Konoha ninja blocking the path screamed and wailed, turning into liquid, skin and bone alike. But the next second, more Konoha ninja rushed up, instantly filling the gaps they left. They're as numerous as sea roaches. Mei Terumi cursed angrily through clenched teeth, continuing to eliminate enemies against her will. She was growing increasingly irritable. The enemies weren't the real issue, escaping the encirclement wasn't difficult with her 2 Kekkei Genkai. But what about Keigaya Tetsu? After seeing body flicker Shisui appear, Mei Terumi had a bad feeling and immediately sent her ninja gull to notify Keigaya Tetsu to retreat. The ninja gull hadn't returned with a message yet, and she wasn't even sure if Keigaya Tetsu was still alive. That lunatic planned to deal with Hazuka Asuka alone right under the noses of the 7 swordsmen. If he really died, it wouldn't be surprising. But anything Keigaya Tetsu decided to do, Mei Terumi couldn't dissuade him from, leaving her to watch him jump into the fire pit. Those reckless hotheads of the Keigaya clan are the worst. Mei Terumi roared and aimed at an unfortunate Konoha ninja, unleashing all her fury upon him. She secretly decided that if Keigaya Tetsu really was killed by Hazuka Asuka, she would do everything she could to avenge him. Mei Terumi, we should retreat now. Waiting for an idiot who might already be dead is foolish. Zabuza, standing nearby, glanced at Mei Terumi and spoke flatly. He knew Mei Terumi was only staying on the battlefield for Keigaya Tetsu. Mei Terumi's face flushed, and she glared at him fiercely. Abandoning a comrade to retreat. I can't do that. Mei Terumi, you will regret this. Zabuza, I am the captain. The moment they were distracted talking, the ground behind Zabuza broke open, and 2 Konoha ninja using earth release emerged, ready to launch a fatal blow. Zabuza felt a chill run down his spine. The attack was too sudden. He could dodge it, but he would likely sustain injuries. Just then, several muffled thuds sounded. The 2 Konoha ninja stiffened and collapsed weakly onto the ground. Zabuza, it's not nice to call people idiots behind their backs. A slightly lazy voice drifted over, startling Zabuza. Che-kun. Mei Terumi saw the sudden appearance of the white-haired youth, her emerald eyes practically glowing. Zabuza's mouth, hidden behind his bandages, also widened slightly. He had guessed Keigaya Tetsu intended to face Hazuka Asuka, believing it was nothing short of suicide, but he hadn't expected the guy to actually return alive. Seeing the confusion on their faces, Keigaya Tetsu gave them the short version. The 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist encountered Konoha's might die, and only Suikazan Fuguki survived. I'm a bone clone. My main body infiltrated the capital of hot water after receiving the ninja gull's message. He said, looking at Mei Terumi, Mei, go notify Lord Ao immediately. Pay attention to the signals inside the city, and be ready to lead the troops in a breakout at any moment. Mei Terumi and Zabuza exchanged glances, seeing that the other's eyes were full of question marks. The amount of information was overwhelming. The 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist were almost wiped out. Who was might die? Before they could ask, with a bang, the clone dissolved into fragments of bone. Zabuza, you heard him, right? You guard this spot, and I'll go find Lord Ao. Mei Terumi quickly regained her composure and vanished in a flash. Zabuza snorted coldly and vigorously swung his short sword, indicating his compliance. I'm not following Keigaya Tetsu's orders. I'm just curious about what that idiot is going to do. He added silently in his mind. Inside the capital of hot water, at an inconspicuous corner wall. Keigaya Tetsu poked his head out from the wall, secretly observing the activity within the Tenshukaku. This must be Konoha's command post in the capital of hot water. He mused inwardly. Keigaya Tetsu had just received the message from the bone clone and, knowing Mei Terumi was safe, felt slightly relieved. Next, it was his turn to create some disturbance. The Mist Village troops were completely surrounded, and the 7 ninja swordsmen of the Mist had been soundly defeated. He alone couldn't change the course of the battle. The only way was to cause trouble in Konoha's command post and throw them into disarray. This is the last time. He activated the Mayfly technique again and successfully infiltrated the Tenshukaku. Keigaya Tetsu's body was ultimately not a white zetsu. The chakra consumption for using the mayfly technique was astonishingly high. He could only use it for half a minute at a time, and it required at least 1 or 2 days to recover afterward. But he had already used the mayfly technique several times today, and his chakra reserves were nearly depleted. He had to finish quickly. On the top floor of the Tenshukaku, Shikaku Nara stood by the railing, gazing out at the brutal battlefield. As Konoha's general commander in the land of hot springs, Shikaku Nara already had a few gray hairs on his pineapple-shaped head. Thanks to that man, he murmured to himself, the figure of Might Guy appearing in his mind. Not long ago, Might Guy's squad sent an urgent report stating they had encountered the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist, estimating that the hidden mist village was ready to launch a sudden attack at any moment, and Might Guy was holding off the 7 swordsmen alone to buy time for the main Konoha forces to prepare their defense. If it were any other commander, they might have doubted the authenticity of the intelligence, since almost no one would believe the words of a genin. But Shikaku Nara was different. He wouldn't overlook any potential risk, so he quickly mobilized troops for an ambush. Then he saw that the hidden mist village forces had indeed managed to sneak past their defenses, driving their attack straight to the capital of hot water. If it hadn't been for the efforts of the Might father and son, the city would likely have been breached by now. Nevertheless, the final victory still belonged to Konoha. He looked toward the battlefield again, his gaze fixed on a phantom figure darting everywhere. Wherever his blade flashed, Kirigakure ninja fell like weeds. The fate of the Kirigakure ninja was sealed the moment Uchiha Shisui arrived on the battlefield. Once this group of enemies was annihilated, the hidden mist village should be temporarily unable to cross the sea. The war should be coming to an end soon. Shikaku Nara let out a soft breath, his heartbeat suddenly quickening. Out of the corner of his eye, he glimpsed a figure appearing inside the room. Enemy. Nara Shikaku had just reacted when the opponent already made their move. A snow-white bone blade thrust towards his heart, threatening to kill the Konoha commander on the spot. With a bang, Nara Shikaku dissipated into a cloud of white mist. Shadow clone. Keigaya Tetsu mumbled, about to retreat, but found his body unable to move. He sensed something and quickly turned to swing his blade, only to see a shadow extend from the crack in the door, touching his body like a snake and firmly restraining him. At the same time, the door opened, and Nara Shikaku appeared with several guards. I've heard that while the hidden mist village isn't strong, its assassination techniques are top-notch. Today, I've witnessed it firsthand. Seeing the handsome young man holding a bone blade in the room, Nara Shikaku revealed a satisfied smile. It seems he's a Keigaya clan member. This is a huge gain. So it was a trap, then. Keigaya Tetsu gave a bitter smile. No wonder, when he infiltrated, he found only Nara Shikaku in the room, and not even a single guard in the corridor. It turned out Nara Shikaku used a shadow clone as a trap. As expected of Konoha's strategist, he has many tricks up his sleeve. Nara Shikaku gently persuaded. Child, surrender. The blade in your hand could pierce yourself at any moment. Your main forces outside the capital of hot water are also on the verge of collapse. Nara Shikaku planned to capture the precious Shikatsumyaku user alive, even if it took more time. Unexpectedly, Keigaya Tetsu revealed a strange smile. Who says so? He was caught in the shadow imitation jutsu, still maintaining the posture of swinging his blade, now facing the Nara clan member who controlled him. Nara Shikaku suddenly saw Keigaya Tetsu's index finger, holding the blade, subtly straighten, pointing at the guard beside him. A strong sense of danger suddenly erupted, and Nara Shikaku shouted loudly. Watch out! Bang! After a moderate sound, the Nara clan member's eyes widened, looking confusedly at the bloody hole in his chest. Water gun technique. Keigaya Tetsu easily broke free from his restraints. Upon seeing Nara Shikaku, he had already prepared for the shadow imitation jutsu. That secret technique could manipulate a person's movements, but it couldn't perfectly control the flow of chakra within the body. This meant that if they encountered someone who could use ninjutsu without hand signs, the Nara ninja could easily be counter-killed. So, Keigaya Tetsu had kept his index finger raised, secretly preparing to fire a water gun. Seeing the Nara guard beside him instantly killed, Nara Shikaku didn't hesitate for a moment, turned his head, and ran. Keigaya Tetsu held his right hand in a gun-like posture, and with a few more bangs, he eliminated the remaining ninja. He didn't pursue Nara Shikaku, fearing that the old fox had another ambush. Anyway, his goal was to create chaos. Let's make a big mess. The exhilaration of killing filled his heart. Keigaya Tetsu grabbed his bone blade and rushed out. Most of Konoha's ninja were fighting outside the city, and there were only a few guards in the castle tower, who never expected an enemy to infiltrate. Oh no, enemy attack. A Konoha ninja, having just finished slacking off in the restroom, saw a bloody bone blade. He barely had time to issue a warning before his head fell to the ground. Keigaya Tetsu quickly carried out the slaughter, giving the Konoha ninja no chance to react. If he encountered a tricky enemy, he wouldn't get entangled, briefly engaging before turning and running, focusing on easy targets. In an instant, he had already killed more than 10 Konoha ninja, and the castle tower was in chaos. Keigaya Tetsu fought his way downstairs when he suddenly saw a mountain-like figure blocking his path. You shall not pass me. Blocking his way was a red-haired Akamichi Chunin, whose body rapidly expanded as he spoke. Human bullet tank. The human bullet, capable of crushing rocks, rolled towards him. Keigaya Tetsu was in a narrow corridor with no place to dodge. Keigaya Tetsu remained calm, raising his bone blade. A layer of lightning suddenly wrapped around the snow-white edge. Dance of lightning. The sound of the bone blade cutting through the air suddenly erupted, striking the human bullet tank in front of him. Akamichi ninja have tough skin and can condense dense yang-release chakra on their bodies for defense, making it difficult for simple physical attacks to harm them. But Keigaya Tetsu had developed the ability to attach chakra to his bone blade, a technique he had used against Hazuka Asuka before. Now, his sword technique had both physical destructive power and could erupt with the corresponding chakra nature upon touching an enemy, effectively stacking two layers of attack and achieving a synergistic effect greater than the sum of its parts. The Akamichi ninja was about to mock that ordinary blades were useless against him when he suddenly felt his whole body numb, as if struck by lightning. His chakra circulation was instantly disrupted, and his body's defense dissipated. Ah! The bone blade penetrated his skin, and the highly destructive lightning coursed through his internal organs. The Akamichi Chunin let out a heart-wrenching scream, which quickly faded. Having just dealt with the Akamichi Chunin, Keigaya Tetsu heard several whooshes and saw several shuriken shoot through the corridor. Dance of the Larch. Several white bones instantly grew from his body, rotating a few times like a dance, deflecting all the incoming shuriken. But he soon realized that it wasn't that simple. The deflected shuriken seemed to be manipulated, changing their trajectory in midair and flying back. Manipulated shuriken technique. Seeing the shining wires in the hollow parts of the shuriken, Keigaya Tetsu realized they were Uchiha members. While he was busy dealing with the dancing shuriken, the two Uchiha standing in the distance completed their hand signs. Fire release. Great Fireball Jutsu. Fire release. Dragon Fire Jutsu. With several loud bangs, fire scattered throughout the castle tower, and the wooden pillars blazed fiercely. But it wasn't over yet. An Uchiha ninja passed through the flames and charged in front of Keigaya Tetsu. Seeing those two Tomo Sharingan, Keigaya Tetsu secretly praised them. As expected of the Uchiha, this four-man squad coordinated extremely well. One first used the manipulated shuriken technique to distract him, two launched fire attacks from a distance, and finally, the captain personally engaged in close combat with his Sharingan. Once he fell into a genjutsu, the battle would be completely over. It should have been so, but Keigaya Tetsu disappointed him. Two black Tomo stared intently at Keigaya Tetsu, their visual prowess frantically activated, but he remained unresponsive. This guy is immune to the Sharingan. The Uchiha captain's heart was greatly shaken, and in that 1 second of his stunned, Keigaya Tetsu's blade had already pierced his stomach. The other three Uchiha also froze. What happened before their eyes was beyond their comprehension. Water gun. Keigaya Tetsu raised his right hand, and high-speed water bullets continuously shot out, causing blood blossoms to splash on the Uchiha. Under extreme shock, they even forgot to dodge Keigaya Tetsu's counterattack. Fortunately, these few water gun shots intentionally avoided vital points, so they could still move. Quick! Attack! The Uchiha captain clutched his bleeding stomach, loudly reminding his companions. But he had fallen in front of Kagaya Tetsu, and the other three Uchiha hesitated, fearing Kagaya Tetsu would deliver a fatal blow. Unexpectedly, Kagaya Tetsu didn't kill the Uchiha captain but directly jumped out of the nearby window and left. "I don't kill Uchiha." He left with a light remark. After an intense battle, the castle tower was thick with smoke, and black smoke columns soared into the sky. This scene was also witnessed by the ninja on the battlefield. Seeing that their command center was in trouble, the Konoha ninja were panicked, and their offensive slowed down accordingly. Retreat now. Ao had already received news from Mei Terumi. Now, seeing that Kagaya Tetsu seemed to have succeeded, he decisively ordered the Mist Village troop to withdraw. As long as most of the troops could retreat, the hidden Mist Village would still have the strength to launch the next round of attacks. "Zabuza, I'm going to rendezvous with Kagaya Tetsu. You can leave first," Mei Terumi said to her subordinate, then rushed against the crowd towards the capital of hot water. She couldn't rest until she found Kagaya Tetsu, but she didn't want Zabuza to risk himself with her. Zabuza was a little angry. "I'm not a coward." As the two were about to search for their companion, they suddenly saw the Kirigakure ninja showing expressions of terror, and those who were retreating stopped dead in their tracks. Ahead on the battlefield, 100 Uchiha Shisui had appeared. With a whoosh, 100 Shisui simultaneously drew their short blades, emitting a chilling gleam. "You can't leave." Uchiha Shisui was still a teenager, but as he stood there, he was like an insurmountable mountain. "You can't leave." He said this expressionlessly, as if stating the obvious. The Kirigakure ninja couldn't help but retreat 2 steps. Many had already been terrified by Uchiha Shisui, and no one dared to charge forward. While they remained still, Uchiha Shisui moved. Hundreds of clones charged, like a pack of wolves rushing into a flock of sheep. The Kirigakure ninja were forced to counterattack. Water release ninjutsu slammed into the crowd of clones, but the clones remained motionless, as if they were all illusions. However, when these clones attacked, the Kirigakure ninja suffered real damage. "So this is Body Flicker Shisui." Mei Terumi frowned deeply. She had long heard of Body Flicker Shisui's name, but this was her first actual encounter. This Uchiha genius combined body flicker technique and Sharingan genjutsu to invent a unique ninjutsu called Phantom Body Flicker Technique. He first created many phantoms with clone techniques, then continuously moved through the phantoms at incredible speed. The phantoms were not shadow clones, they wouldn't disappear when attacked. But ignoring them was not an option, as Uchiha Shisui could appear in any phantom at any time to launch a fatal blow. Thus, each of his clones was both a phantom and a physical entity. The principle was simple, but it was almost impossible to break, unless one could directly capture Shisui's real body and force him to dispel the phantom clones. If Shisui were merely fast, it would be manageable. The key was that he also applied Sharingan genjutsu to the clones, making it impossible to distinguish reality from illusion, making finding his real body out of the question. "This can't go on. We must find a solution immediately." Ao's mind raced, desperately searching for Shisui's weakness. The Konoha squad, which had been somewhat flustered, was now regaining composure, while Kirigakure was being severely battered by Shisui, and the glimmer of hope that had appeared was rapidly fading. Ao was also skilled in sensory ninjutsu, but he currently only had a pair of ordinary eyes and was helpless against these clones with genjutsu effects. Just as the Mist Village troop was about to collapse again, a figure in white burst from the crowd, heading straight for a certain clone. It was Kagaya Tetsu. Clang! The sound of metal clashing rang out as a short blade and a bone blade collided heavily. Impossible. Uchiha Shisui raised his blade to block, slightly surprised, and carefully scrutinized the white-haired youth before him. This guy was unaffected by the genjutsu and found his real body among hundreds of phantom clones. Upon closer inspection, the opponent used a bone blade, indicating he was from the Kagaya clan of Hidden Mist. The Kagaya clan shouldn't have any connection to genjutsu talent, right? It must be luck. Uchiha Shisui thought so. He raised his right leg and kicked upwards forcefully. After the opponent was forced back 2 steps, Shisui took the opportunity to instantly move into the next phantom clone. Unexpectedly, this Kagaya ninja, like a hound scenting prey, turned and continued to attack his real body. After several such instances, Uchiha Shisui finally lost his composure. This guy wasn't relying on luck, he might actually be able to see through his genjutsu. Just then, he heard the Kagaya ninja chuckle and whisper. Shisui-kun, aren't you going to use your Mangekyo Sharingan yet? Kagaya Tetsu possessed the talent of see-through illusion, so the stacked genjutsu of the clones was ineffective against him, allowing him to easily find Shisui's real body. Uchiha Shisui's body trembled, finally startled. How did this guy know his biggest secret? After being repeatedly attacked on his real body and hearing that remark, Uchiha Shisui's movements instantly slowed down, and in a flash, most of the phantoms disappeared. What did that guy do? Mei Terumi was dumbfounded by Kagaya Tetsu's performance. Other Kirigakure ninja reacted similarly. They only saw Kagaya Tetsu suddenly appear, somehow find Shisui's real body, and then Uchiha Shisui's expression changed drastically, and the phantom clones were consequently dispelled. Seize the opportunity to counterattack. Mei Terumi was the first to react. Whatever Kagaya Tetsu had done, they absolutely couldn't waste this excellent opportunity. The Mist Village troops' morale soared, and they immediately resumed fighting the Konoha ninja. Seeing the tide of the battle gradually turning, Kagaya Tetsu breathed a sigh of relief. He didn't care about the outcome of this battle for Hidden Mist Village, but a complete annihilation of the Kirigakure ninja would not do. When he took control of the village, these would all be his strength. Now, they just needed to completely deal with Uchiha Shisui, and they could escape to safety. Uchiha Shisui frowned deeply, and couldn't help but ask in a low voice. Where did you learn about the Mangekyo? Even within the Uchiha clan, not many in the younger generation knew about the existence of the Mangekyo Sharingan. Kagaya Tetsu chuckled inwardly. Uchiha Shisui was indeed an honest person, implicitly admitting the secret of his eyes. As he expected, Shisui, like Fugaku, was deliberately concealing the fact that he had awakened the Mangekyo. Shisui knew very well how serious the consequences would be if the Hawk faction within the clan learned of the Mangekyo's existence. Kagaya Tetsu, of course, didn't answer his question, merely raised his bone blade and arrogantly gazed at the Uchiha genius. Shisui-kun, your genjutsu is useless against me. If you want to continue, that's fine too. You know, we Kagaya clan, we love fighting strong opponents the most. Upon hearing this, Uchiha Shisui was inwardly conflicted. What should I do? He knew Kagaya Tetsu wasn't lying. The moment he clashed with this guy, he secretly used his Mangekyo Sharingan, but that seemingly invincible genjutsu had absolutely no effect on Kagaya Tetsu. Of course, his strength was far more than this. If he activated Susanoo, he was fully confident he could defeat this Kagaya ninja and completely bury this Konoha squad. However, that would completely expose his ocular jutsu. It's not time yet. Uchiha Shisui made his decision. He would never reveal his Mangekyo unless absolutely necessary. You can leave. He clenched his fists, uttering these words with difficulty. This was tantamount to acknowledging the deal with Kagaya Tetsu. He would let the Mist Village troop leave, and Kagaya Tetsu would not reveal the secret of the Mangekyo. Kagaya Tetsu secretly breathed a sigh of relief. With his current strength, trying to defeat Body Flicker Shisui was a pipe dream. Fortunately, after weighing the pros and cons, the other party clearly believed that the risk of exposing the Mangekyo was greater. After all, those eyes could potentially trigger a civil war in Konoha. But Kagaya Tetsu had no intention of retreating ignominiously. Since he had Shisui cornered, he would press a little further. Shisui-kun, please give me some face and let us retreat with dignity. Seeing his slightly crazed smile, Uchiha Shisui's expression changed, and he instantly guessed what he might be planning. This guy definitely wanted to kill another batch of Konoha ninja before retreating, so that the Hidden Mist Village wouldn't lose so badly. No. Shisui flatly refused, but then heard Kagaya Tetsu's devilish whisper. Shisui, you don't want your Mangekyo to be exposed, do you? Uchiha Shisui immediately froze, unsure what to say. Seeing his silence, Kagaya Tetsu chuckled, feeling like a cuckolder who had an incompetent husband cornered, watching helplessly as he did as he pleased. While Shisui was still reacting, Kagaya Tetsu formed hand signs as he retreated. Shikatsumyaku. Early fern dance. Patches of white bone forest rose up, catching dozens of Konoha ninja off guard, who screamed as they were impaled like human skewers. The bone forest blocked the Konoha squad's pursuit, and the tattered corpses hanging from the bones terrified the Konoha ninja to their core. The Tomo in Uchiha Shisui's eyes spun wildly, almost dripping blood. He had long heard that the Kagaya clan was extremely brutal, but witnessing it firsthand, he found it far exceeded his imagination. But he could do nothing. If Kagaya Tetsu revealed the secret of the Mangekyo in front of everyone, it wouldn't be as simple as just dozens of people dying. Long live Kagaya Tetsu. The Kirigakure ninja cheered Kagaya Tetsu's name and retreated calmly. The Land of Hot Springs battle ended in a muddle. Konoha announced that they had defeated the Hidden Mist village troop that launched a sneak attack, severely damaging the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist, and that the Land of Hot Springs remained under the glorious light of the third Hokage. The Hidden Mist village, on the other hand, announced that the operation was a great success, killing countless enemies under the nose of Body Flicker Shisui, and successfully retreating. In short, both sides claimed victory. Are they imitating the golden-haired dragon? How can everyone win? It's like they've won too much. Kagaya Tetsu muttered softly. After reading the report for a while, he found it boring, casually put it back on the table, and looked around the room he was in. Simple decor, single color scheme. Like most buildings in the Hidden Mist village, the overall style seemed lifeless. This was the Mizukage's office. Having lived in the Hidden Mist village for so many years, this was the first time Kagaya Tetsu had met the third Mizukage. He didn't wait long before the door gently opened, and a man walked in slowly. Sorry, Chie-kun, you've waited a long time. The third Mizukage narrowed his eyes, revealing a kind smile, and even apologized for his lateness. Kagaya Tetsu briefly sized up the man in front of him. Simple clothes, tall and slender figure, long black hair. Time seemed to have left few marks on his face. He looked like a handsome uncle next door. In short, he didn't look like the creator of the blood mist policy at all. Kagaya Tetsu showed a perfectly timed expression of slight apprehension and bowed deeply. Mizukage-sama, what are you saying? To be able to meet you, no matter how long the wait, it's worth it. The Mizukage chuckled, if only all of the Kagaya clan were like Chie-kun. Whether it was praise or a warning, Kagaya Tetsu simply responded with a smile. The Mizukage gestured for him to sit, then sat down behind his desk, and slowly said. It took quite some time to appease Hozuki Mangetsu just now. That child holds a lot of resentment towards you. After all, Hazuka Asuka was his elder brother. After saying that, he looked deeply at Kagaya Tetsu, as if trying to find some flaw in his eyes. Kagaya Tetsu shook his head, putting on a heartbroken expression. It's all my fault for not discovering Konoha's ambush in time, leading to such a tragic defeat for the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist. After returning to the village, as the eyewitness to the tragic defeat of the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist, he was interrogated by the torture and interrogation unit. Kagaya Tetsu didn't reveal the truth about his internal conflict with the 7 ninja swordsmen, as that would only cause countless suspicions and targeting. Instead, he gave the reason that they accidentally encountered an ambush by Konoha's strong combatants. Anyway, those 6 people were dead, and Suikazan Fuguki, the only survivor, was missing, so he could say whatever he wanted. Even if Suikazan Fuguki returned to the Hidden Mist in the future, Kagaya Tetsu had leverage over him. As a transmigrator, he knew that Fat Pig was also a traitor who sold a lot of intelligence to neighboring countries. Seeing Kagaya Tetsu's sorrowful face, the Mizukage gently comforted him. Chie-kun, you did very well. No one expected Konoha to have such a monster. Kagaya Tetsu noticed that the Mizukage's tone had almost no fluctuation, as if he wasn't overly sad about the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist. It was as if he had already anticipated the failure of the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist. Kagaya Tetsu didn't continue the topic, only saying, Thank you, Mizukage-sama, for appeasing Senior Mangetsu for me. He took the opportunity to express his gratitude, indicating that he understood the Mizukage's good intentions. As expected, the Mizukage nodded in satisfaction. That child Mangetsu has a deep affection for his brother. He's just a bit emotional, he bears no ill will towards you. As he spoke, he took out a registration form and smiled, saying, Elder Genshi Inao also spoke highly of you, so this matter is temporarily settled. You don't need to worry too much. Now, are you ready to proceed with the Jonin registration process? Keigaya Tetsu was called by the Mizukage this time mainly to complete the process of being promoted to Jonin. Keigaya Tetsu first survived against the mysterious strong combatant named Might Dai, and even managed to snatch back all 6 ninja swords. Then, at the most critical moment, he turned the tide by raiding Konoha's command post, forcing body flicker Shisui to retreat, leaving dozens of corpses for Konoha, and helping the main force evacuate successfully, preserving the strength of the Hidden Mist Village. The Hidden Mist Village has very strict assessments for Jonin promotion, but looking across the entire ninja world, few could match Keigaya Tetsu's performance this time, fully proving his qualification. With the Mizukage's approval, the Jonin registration process was simple. The Mizukage routinely asked questions like, "Do you love the Hidden Mist?" and finally stamped the Jonin registration form. Che-kun, congratulations on becoming the youngest Jonin in the history of the Hidden Mist Village. The Mizukage, smiling, handed him the registration form. Thanks to Mizukage-sama's guidance, Keigaya Tetsu immediately stood up and bowed deeply. Being promoted to Jonin at the age of 12 not only set a record for the Hidden Mist Village but also put him on par with Kakashi. The Mizukage continued. Now you can form your own squad. If you have any preferred candidates, you can bring them up directly. Keigaya Tetsu, however, shook his head. Mizukage-sama, there's no need. I get along well with my current teammates. Mei Terumi and Zabuza, one is the future Mizukage, the other is one of the future 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist. Teaming up with them means he doesn't have to worry about combat strength. Keigaya Tetsu had no reason to form a rookie squad himself. His primary goal was always to get stronger as quickly as possible and earn more rewards to confront Kenji. Teaming up with strong combatants was undoubtedly the fastest way to get stronger. Seeing Keigaya Tetsu refuse, the Mizukage didn't say much. This situation was normal. Not every Jonin liked to fight with Chunin or Genin. After the procedures were completed, the Mizukage encouraged him with a few more words, finally saying, "By the way, Che-kun, Elder Genshi mentioned your continental balance policy to me. Do you really think it's feasible?" Before leaving for the land of hot springs, Mei Terumi had told Genshi about Keigaya Tetsu's idea. Genshi thought it was feasible, so he reported it to the Mizukage. Keigaya Tetsu nodded. "Mizukage-sama, I believe it is feasible. Moreover, this is the only way for us to turn the tide of the war right now." Turn the tide of the war. The Mizukage narrowed his eyes, deep in thought. Although the Hidden Mist publicly declared a great victory in the land of hot springs, the high-ranking officials within the village clearly knew that the land of hot springs was ultimately taken by Konoha. The land of water had lost another potential landing point, and the situation was quite grim. The Hidden Mist village was isolated overseas. If they couldn't penetrate the mainland, it would basically mean they had to withdraw from the war. Konoha's current situation was not just good, or very good, but excellent. Other countries had been beaten into submission, let alone the Hidden Mist village, which had lost the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist. Keigaya Tetsu's proposal inspired him. The Hidden Mist village had previously adopted traditional ninja warfare, clashing head-on with the 4 great nations, with minimal results. Perhaps it was time to change strategy. Alright, write me a detailed report as soon as possible. If it's feasible, I will support it. The Mizukage was unwilling to end the war so hastily. He had been preparing for this war for many years, and the consequences of failure would be unimaginable. Most importantly, he had long vaguely felt that the young man in front of him was not as simple as he seemed, and might actually be able to accomplish this. Keigaya Tetsu accepted the order and left the Mizukage building. He took a deep breath of the fresh air outside, subtly wiping the sweat from his brow. Just now, the Mizukage's attitude was amiable, he admired him greatly, and even willing to adopt the continental balance policy of a mere youngster like him, truly appearing as a wise ruler who valued talent. However, Keigaya Tetsu's malice perception detected that the Mizukage had been continuously emitting extremely deep malice. What exactly does the Mizukage want to do? Keigaya Tetsu had met the man, but he felt that the other party became even more mysterious. Keigaya Tetsu slowly left the Mizukage building and walked home. He slightly curled his right index finger, and a section of finger bone protruded, but instead of firing it as a bone bullet, he held it in his hand and gently rubbed it. His silly old dad used to often tell him that as a family that plays with bones, he should touch bones more often when he has time to get familiar with the feeling, so he could better manipulate bones in battle. Kagaya Tetsu didn't know if his theory was correct, but he mostly kept the habits his parents instilled in him. Walking on the street, passers-by occasionally stopped to secretly glance at him. A few cute, youthful girls walked towards him, seemingly inadvertently looking up at him, then blushed and hurried away. So handsome, as expected of the youngest Jonin, he's different from other Kagaya clan members. Similar words drifted into Kagaya Tetsu's ears with the wind. Every Jonin promotion was a major event in the village, and the news had spread throughout the village even before he officially received the Mizukage's recognition today. Kagaya Tetsu didn't pay attention to the voices of the passers-by. While playing with the bone, he looked at the panel in his consciousness space. Explorer. Kagaya Tetsu. Chakra amount. 9.8. Chakra nature. Water, fire, lightning. Bloodline. Kagaya Shikatsumyaku, Uchiha bloodline. Bloodline abilities. Bone clone, 10-finger piercing bullet, dance of the larch, early fern dance, dance of lightning. Talents. Malice perception, hundredfold comprehension, genjutsu immunity. Ninjutsu. 3 basic jutsu D water release. Hidden mist technique D water release. Water formation wall B water release. Water dragon bullet technique B water release. Water blade /C. Blade technique. White fang blade technique beginner. Taijutsu. Kagaya combat style proficient, 8 gates beginner. Special abilities. Mayfly technique beginner, water gun technique beginner. He didn't get a golden reward in this battle, but the newly acquired 8 gates and water gun technique were also good. It's just that these 2 secret techniques belong to the Might family and the Hazuka clan respectively, and he didn't plan to use them casually until he found a legitimate reason. In terms of chakra, he found some white question marks on the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist and a few Konoha ninja, which improved slightly, but there was still some distance from cage level. Regrettably, he didn't see any question marks on Uchiha Shisui this time. He had originally hoped to get Mangekyo Sharingan, or things like the body flicker technique. However, with the difference in strength between himself and Shisui, the difficulty of successfully getting a prize was quite high. There were 2 other gains. One was that the system map's detection range increased to 100 meters, and as he expected, as his strength improved, the system would also upgrade. The other was that he discovered a faint stinging sensation in his eyes when fighting Shisui, which was likely a precursor to the awakening of the Sharingan. He already possessed the Uchiha bloodline, so the method of awakening the Sharingan should be similar to that of a true Uchiha, requiring intense emotional stimulation. Kagaya Tetsu secretly pondered, if he couldn't get a Mangekyo, would he have to destroy a clan for fun? Just kidding. In short, the battle in the land of hot springs had a moderate impact on his strength. Now that he was officially a Jonin, he was considered to have entered the ranks of experts in the Hidden Mist village. However, it is well known that ninja of the same rank in different villages can have vastly different skill levels, and the overall skill level of Hidden Mist ninja is at the bottom among the 5 great ninja villages. It's like both are 4th generation jets, but the third brother's 4th generation jet and the Eastern University's 4th generation jet are 2 completely different concepts. Compared to the rewards, what Kagaya Tetsu was most satisfied with this time was the effect of Dance of Lightning. He had long thought about attaching different chakra natures to his bone blade, combining physical and magical attacks with one strike to achieve double the effect. Moreover, no man would refuse enchanting a weapon. After all, strength is temporary, but coolness is forever. After many experiments, he found that water release chakra was too fluid and difficult to attach to a weapon, but lightning release chakra could be. Now he possessed water, fire, and lightning chakra natures, and couldn't help but wonder if he could also add the fire nature to develop a lightning fire sword. The style of a lightning fire sword is too greasy. Kagaya Tetsu's thoughts were wandering in strange directions when he suddenly saw a pair of feet. He looked up and saw a tall young man standing in front of him, staring intently at him. The other party had an extraordinary temperament. Although he was only wearing a standard sleeveless combat uniform, his noble aura was difficult to conceal. It turned out to be Hozuki Mangetsu, Hazuka Asuka's younger brother. Hello, Kagaya Tetsu. Hozuki Mangetsu nodded slightly and greeted him politely, but there was no hint of closeness in his voice. Seeing him initiate the greeting, Kagaya Tetsu also returned a smile. Lord Mangetsu, hello. Before today, the man in front of him held the record for the youngest Jonin in the Hidden Mist village and was hailed as a prodigy beloved by ninja swords, capable of skillfully wielding all 7 ninja swords. The original work didn't mention how Hozuki Mangetsu died, but Kagaya Tetsu speculated that this guy's strength definitely surpassed Hazuka Asuka and was much stronger than Suigetsu Hazuka, a future Taka team member. This guy possessed a scroll that could summon all 7 ninja swords, and the 7 ninja swords were a symbol of the Hidden Mist village. The strength of a ninja qualified to wield such a treasure could be imagined. Hozuki Mangetsu saw Kagaya Tetsu's sunny smile, but an uncontrollable sense of disgust rose in his heart. Kagaya Tetsu, can you still smile? He didn't directly accuse Kagaya Tetsu, but the dissatisfaction in his tone was overflowing. His beloved elder brother died inexplicably on a mission, yet a stinking little brat from the Kagaya clan survived unscathed and even achieved great merit to become a Jonin. Why? If it weren't for his good upbringing, he would have already attacked Kagaya Tetsu. Kagaya Tetsu was about to retort when a sweet and clear voice came from the side. Without him, the Hidden Mist troop would probably have been completely annihilated this time. Why shouldn't he smile? Both looked over to see Mei Terumi walking quickly, her face filled with indignation. She stood firmly in front of Hozuki Mangetsu, hands on her hips, and said loudly. Oh, and if Kagaya Tetsu hadn't retrieved the ninja sword, your brother's relic would probably have been hanging on Konoha's wall. Why aren't you smiling? Is it because you're incompetent? Kagaya Tetsu secretly sighed, as expected of the future Mizukage, such strong offensive power. Hozuki Mangetsu, however, wasn't angry. He knew it was pointless to argue with Mei Terumi, and simply said expressionlessly. Kagaya Tetsu, I will continue to investigate this matter. With that, he ignored the two and went straight to the Mizukage building. Mei is still the same, never losing an argument. Kagaya Tetsu gave Mei Terumi a thumbs up, showing his gratitude. Mei Terumi usually maintained a gentle and mature older sister image and rarely cursed like this. But you don't actually need to be so angry. Hozuki Mangetsu wouldn't dare do anything to me. He comforted the girl. I'm your captain, and 3 years older than you, of course I can't stand him bullying you. Mei Terumi put on a bossy big sister act again, reaching her fair, tender hand towards Kagaya Tetsu's head. Kagaya Tetsu grabbed her wrist. Talk properly. Mei Terumi rolled her beautiful eyes. Oh, I forgot that Lord Kagaya Tetsu is a Jonin, so even patting his head isn't allowed. Kagaya Tetsu's mouth twitched. That has nothing to do with it, okay. She stopped teasing Kagaya Tetsu and said seriously. Oh, right, I came to ask if you want to go to the hospital with me to see Zabuza. Zabuza was seriously injured in this battle, but fortunately, he was tough. A mere fatal injury wasn't a big problem, but he would have to stay in the hospital for a while. Kagaya Tetsu nodded. Okay. He was his future ally, so it was fine to put more effort into him. Speaking of which, Kagaya Tetsu suddenly realized he was still holding Mei Terumi's wrist. The girl's wrist was soft and smooth, as if boneless, very comfortable. Kagaya Tetsu quietly let go, and Mei Terumi mumbled softly. Actually, you didn't have to let go. What? Nothing, I said the wind is strong today. She quickly walked a few steps ahead, not letting Kagaya Tetsu see her flushed face. As soon as the two arrived in the Hidden Mist hospital corridor, they heard an angry roar. Get lost. I don't need you people telling me what to do. Mei Terumi frowned. That's Zabuza's voice. Kagaya Tetsu chuckled. He can still curse people out. Looks like he's in good spirits. Mei Terumi gave him a speechless look, then walked ahead to Zabuza's hospital room door and secretly peeked inside through the window. Why don't you just open the door? Kagaya Tetsu asked, and just as he was about to open the door, Mei Terumi put her index finger to her lips and made a shish gesture. So, two heads leaned together, hiding outside the door to observe secretly. Mei Terumi's hair brushed against Kagaya Tetsu's nose, tickling him. He struggled to hold back a sneeze. Zabuza was wrapped entirely in bandages, lying immobilized on the bed. A young nurse stood beside the bed, holding a food tray, her small face flushed with anger. Kagaya Tetsu realized that she must have been the one Zabuza had just cursed. Looking closer, there was also a female doctor standing in the room. She looked a little older than Mei Terumi, probably 16 or 17. Her appearance wasn't striking, certainly far less beautiful than Mei Terumi, but she had a reassuring affability. Kagaya Tetsu felt that this female doctor looked somewhat familiar. The female doctor took the food tray from the young nurse and smiled gently at Zabuza. It must be painful not being able to move your hands and having someone else feed you. However, if Mr. Zabuza starves, I might be fired and won't be able to take care of you anymore. Saying this, the female doctor slowly sat down by Zabuza's bed, looking worried as she sighed. This is truly troubling. After a moment of silence in the room, Zabuza's low voice came out. Hurry up and feed me, then get lost. The female doctor's eyes curved into crescent moons. Zabuza is the best. She picked up the spoon and gently fed the food into Zabuza's mouth. The young nurse behind her wanted to laugh at the sight but quickly held it back upon seeing Zabuza's fierce expression. What the hell? Where did this female doctor come from? Mei Terumi muttered to herself, her emerald eyes full of excited curiosity. To be able to make Zabuza obedient, she's got something special. Kagaya Tetsu couldn't help but sigh in admiration. The two roughly understood. Zabuza couldn't move and had to be fed. But for the incredibly proud Lord Zabuza, being fussed over and fed by a delicate woman was worse than starving. They hadn't expected this female doctor to be able to handle Zabuza. The female doctor quickly finished feeding him, gently wiped the grease from Zabuza's mouth with a tissue, stood up, and smiled. I have a surgery tonight, so I might not be able to visit Zabuza. But please promise me you'll eat obediently then, okay? Zabuza stared straight at the ceiling and hummed in agreement. The female doctor secretly gave the young nurse an, okay, gesture, and the two pushed the door open and exited. Oh, my lords, are you here to visit Zabuza? She was startled when she suddenly saw Mei Terumi and Kagaya Tetsu standing at the door. Although she was a few years older than them, she remained very polite when facing two Jonin. Ah, yes, I'm his captain, so I came to check on him. Mei Terumi pretended she had just arrived. Kagaya Tetsu, however, studied the female doctor's face and asked. May I ask your name? I don't mean anything by it, I'm just curious who managed to coax Zabuza into submission. The female doctor covered her mouth and chuckled softly. My name is Yukino Eri, and I am Zabuza's attending physician. Actually, Zabuza-kun is a very gentle person. Kagaya Tetsu and Mei Terumi exchanged glances, both slightly surprised. It was the Yuki clan, possessing the ice release. The Hazuka, Yuki, and Kagaya were the three largest bloodline limit clans in Hidden Mist. Because they mastered powerful abilities, most people from these three clans became combat ninjas, and few became doctors. But that wasn't what Kagaya Tetsu cared about most. Connecting Yukino Eri's somewhat familiar face, he suddenly realized. This woman looked a bit like Haku. Could she be related to that young man? No wonder she could handle Zabuza. However, according to the original timeline, the bloodline limit clans of Hidden Mist were supposed to be massacred, leaving only Haku from the Yuki clan. He wondered if his interference would change things. After exchanging greetings, Yukino Eri left, and the two approached Zabuza. Thanks, Zabuza. I can't believe you didn't abandon me and retreat. Kagaya Tetsu sat down beside Zabuza, laughing casually, and picked up an apple from the table to take a bite. Afterward, he learned from Mei Terumi that Zabuza hadn't left when he was causing chaos at the Konoha Command Center. Instead, Zabuza had prepared to follow Mei Terumi to meet him. In the village of the Bloody Mist, a ninja like Zabuza was an anomaly. Zabuza, who had no family or friends, hadn't expected them to come. A trace of surprise flashed across his face, and he said in a deep voice. HMPH, I wasn't doing it for you. I just wanted to kill a few more Konoha people. Seeing him retort to Kagaya Tetsu again, Mei Terumi said petulantly. Hey, can't you say something nice? This might be the last time our squad is all together. After speaking, she and Zabuza glanced at Kagaya Tetsu, and both fell silent. They both knew that since Kagaya Tetsu had become a Jonin, he would likely form his own team and work independently. To their surprise, Keigaya Tetsu slapped his head. I forgot to mention it. Mizukage-sama did suggest I lead my own team, but I don't want to mentor a bunch of Chunin and Genin, so I refused. He laughed heartily at his two comrades. So, please continue to guide me in the future. Mei Terumi immediately grabbed his arm excitedly, her eyes sparkling. Really? She had thought she would have to separate from Keigaya Tetsu, but now they could stay together. How could she not be excited? Keigaya Tetsu rolled his eyes at her. Just kidding, I'm about to go to the ninja academy to find promising students. Mei Terumi lightly patted him. I'm your captain. Show some respect, will you? After saying that, she beamed a beautiful smile. I want to form a squad with you guys for life. Naturally, she didn't want to separate from Keigaya Tetsu. As for Zabuza, after fighting alongside him in the land of hot springs, she felt he was quite reliable and not so annoying anymore. Keigaya Tetsu wailed internally, please stop. Zabuza said nothing, but the corners of his mouth curled up slightly, almost imperceptibly. Mei Terumi said seriously. Tetsu, speaking of which, we haven't had a chance to properly thank you this time. If you hadn't been so brave, we probably wouldn't have made it back. Once Zabuza is discharged, I'll treat you two to a massive meal, no, 10 meals. She wasn't exaggerating. At that time, the Mist Village troop was on the verge of collapse. It was Keigaya Tetsu who single-handedly raided the command center and forced Shisui to retreat, allowing everyone to escape. This incident had spread throughout the village. Just now, upon entering the hospital, many doctors and patients gave Keigaya Tetsu grateful looks. Keigaya Tetsu waved his hand dismissively, indicating it was nothing. The three chatted for a while, mainly Mei Terumi and Keigaya Tetsu chattering, while Zabuza listened silently. In the past, he disliked having teammates, viewing them as burdens. It was better to be a lone wolf. He thought, having two teammates isn't bad. They can keep this lord entertained. He couldn't help but think this. After a long while, Mei Terumi clenched her small fists and chuckled. Zabuza, we're relieved you're okay. Take good care of your injuries, and we'll wait for your return to the team. Keigaya Tetsu also nodded seriously. Don't rush. Stay a few extra days. I noticed you seemed to enjoy the food Miss Eri fed you. Zabuza was stunned, suddenly realizing something. These two guys must have secretly witnessed his embarrassment. Keigaya Tetsu, I'll kill you. Ignoring his roar, Keigaya Tetsu and Mei Terumi quickly slipped away. Just as Zabuza roared, the door to the Konoha Hokage office was also violently pushed open. Danzo Shimura's face was gloomy. After pushing the door open, he strode directly up to the third Hokage and said sternly. Hiruzen, you will regret this. Hiruzen Sarutobi was startled. Why start with that line right away? Aren't we following protocol anymore? Danzo, use my title when we're working. Hiruzen Sarutobi picked up his pipe and calmly lit a match. He was long used to his old friend's rudeness. Seeing Hiruzen Sarutobi's composed demeanor, Danzo couldn't continue his outburst. He pulled up a chair, sat opposite him, and got straight to the point. Uchiha Shisui made such a huge mistake, and you're not punishing him at all. In the war in the land of hot springs, Konoha almost annihilated the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist. They could have finished the job in one fell swoop, wiping out the remaining hidden Mist Village troop and ensuring that Insidious Island Nation would never again have the power to invade. Moreover, intelligence from the route indicated that Mei Terumi of the hidden Mist Village was also among that troop. Danzo's intelligence network was unrivaled in the ninja world, and he was well acquainted with the geniuses of each village, naturally understanding Mei Terumi's background and immense potential. If Mei Terumi could be killed or captured, the blow to the hidden Mist Village might even surpass the annihilation of the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist. Unfortunately, due to Uchiha Shisui's inexplicable actions, Konoha's efforts were in vain, and they lost face. Nara Shikaku was almost assassinated, and that Keigaya brat even killed dozens of Konoha ninja before leaving. A great victory was completely ruined by Uchiha Shisui. Danzo felt that not immediately leading the route to the Uchiha to arrest him was already quite lenient. Danzo, this isn't Shisui's fault. Hiruzen Sarutobi poured a cup of tea and gently pushed it towards his old friend. Shisui came to me voluntarily and said that although we had the advantage at the time, the Konoha command center was attacked, and Nara Shikaku's life was uncertain. He had no time to pursue the remaining hidden mist defeated soldiers. Besides, you've also been a frontline commander, you should understand the principle of, do not pursue a cornered enemy. At that time, the hidden mist troop had a considerable number of people, and Ao and Mei Terumi were not easy to deal with, not to mention a Shikatsumyaku genius suddenly appeared. It was correct for Shisui to know when to stop. Danzo sneered, dismissive of his explanation. I think you've been Hokage for too long and your mind has become muddled by your subordinates' flattery. Do you really believe that Uchiha Shisui will act as a bridge connecting the village? He knew the reason why the Hokage was so protective of Uchiha Shisui. It was simply because the guy was not only powerful but also appeared very docile. Uchiha Shisui was currently the Uchiha's top genius, and he had always shown infinite loyalty to the Hokage. Danzo had met him several times and tried to put him in his place, but Uchiha Shisui didn't mind at all. Instead, he was extremely respectful towards him. He was so honest and friendly that he hardly seemed like an Uchiha. But precisely because of this, Danzo was very uneasy about him. Could Body Flicker Shisui, who became famous in the ninja world at such a young age, truly be content with being just a tool for the village? Those who hide in the shadows are the most terrifying, just like himself. Teacher Tobarama's evaluation still echoed in Danzo's ears. The Uchiha are inherently evil. Danzo pushed back the tea offered by the Hokage, still insisting on his view. The Uchiha must be exterminated at all costs, there's no other way. If you're worried about appearances, then leave it to the root. I'll be the villain. Danzo finally stated his objective. If this precedent were set, allowing the root to deal with the Uchiha, then in the future, the root would have reason to deal with other clans. Hiruzen Sarutobi glanced at him, a glint flashing in his eyes. Danzo, if you cross the line, you know the consequences. He knew he was very lenient with Danzo, but anything concerning the major clans within the village had to be handled personally by him, that was the bottom line. Danzo was a man of discretion, knowing when to retort and when to compromise. He temporarily closed his mouth. Seeing his old friend calm down, Hiruzen Sarutobi's tone softened a bit. Danzo, don't be too nervous. The land of hot springs is already under our control, and Konoha is sweeping through all fronts. The war is almost over. Compared to Shisui, I'm more concerned about that Kagaya clan brat now. At this point, Hiruzen Sarutobi couldn't help but frown slightly. There were many witnesses to this battle, but many doubts remained. For example, how was the Konoha command center infiltrated? How was Shisui's body flicker technique exposed? But all questions pointed to one person. Kagaya Tetsu. There was little information about Kagaya Tetsu. Hiruzen Sarutobi only knew that he was a genius of the Kagaya clan, promoted to Jonin at only 12 years old, comparable to Kakashi. In his impression, although the Kagaya clan was powerful, they were a bunch of mindless brutes who only knew how to kill in close combat and were relatively easy to deal with. As a result, such a person suddenly appeared, and he inexplicably felt a hint of unease. But it wasn't a big problem. Now that the war was about to end, Konoha had cage-level powerhouses like Orochimaru, Minato, Kushina, and Shisui. Although Jiraiya wandered around, he would return to the village in times of crisis. As for himself, even though he was getting old, he was far from being. A mere hidden mist genius couldn't change the overall situation. As he pondered, Danzo's voice sounded again. By the way, Hiruzen, regarding Kagaya Tetsu, the root has investigated many combatants during this time and obtained some interesting intelligence. Like a patient angler, he seized the opportune moment to reel in his line. That Kagaya Tetsu killed many people in the command center, all ordinary Chunin and Genin, but among them were people from the Nara and Akamichi clans. However, when he faced an Uchiha squad, he let them go, saying that he doesn't kill Uchiha. After speaking, Danzo said no more. Hiruzen Sarutobi's calm heart finally rippled slightly. While Konoha's two highest-ranking individuals chatted, Kagaya Tetsu was also having a discussion with Genshi. The old monk held a report and gently placed it in front of Kagaya Tetsu. Tetsu, the village high-ranking officials have all reviewed your report. To be honest, everyone rejected it. Given the gravity of the matter, he didn't mince words with Kagaya Tetsu and directly spoke the unpleasant truth. After being granted an audience by the Mizukage last time, Kagaya Tetsu wrote a preliminary plan for the Continental Balance Policy, and submitted it. Currently, the Hidden Mist Village's situation was extremely dire. The coastal areas of the Land of Hot Springs were controlled by Konoha, greatly reducing the Hidden Mist's ability to invade inland. If the situation didn't change, they would either retreat to their island and wait for others to attack, or directly surrender to Konoha. Therefore, Kagaya Tetsu's plan attracted much attention, and those important figures all wanted to see if it could truly turn the tide of the war. The result was their disappointment. Kagaya Tetsu's first step to implement the Continental Balance Policy was actually to wage a propaganda war, shaking Konoha through rumors. In the perception of most people, the outcome of war could only be decided by iron and blood. What was the use of a war of words? Seeing Genshi's skepticism, Kagaya Tetsu's expression remained calm. He had long anticipated this situation. The ninja world, in the end, was quite abnormal. Various supernatural abilities and even scientific technologies were not weak, but the ideology was not much different from ancient times. For ninja, fighting and killing was the only righteous path. Those who liked talk no jutsu, like Prince Naruto, were absolute anomalies. But they didn't know that talk no jutsu could often unleash terrifying power. Take his previous life, for example. The war of words between Big Mao and Little Mao never stopped from the start of the war, and public opinion influenced many battle outcomes. And right here in the ninja world, a few years ago, Konoha had just forced Tsukumo Hatake to commit suicide. Even if it was just internal village public opinion, it could still kill a cage-level powerhouse. The Hidden Mist Village's strength was at the bottom among the 5 great ninja villages, perhaps not even matching the Hidden Rain Village. To achieve the Continental Balance Policy, a direct confrontation was certainly not feasible. They could only first shake Konoha through public opinion. Kagaya Tetsu slowly said, "Lord Genshi, what does the Mizukage think?" He asked the crucial question. What others thought wasn't important, the Mizukage's attitude was key. Genshi pondered for a moment and truthfully replied. He believes there's a chance of success. With that, Genshi's eyes revealed a deep look of worry. However, Tetsu, this means that if you fail, you will fall into an abyss of no return. Genshi was looking out for Kagaya Tetsu. If the Mizukage also refused, the plan would simply end, and there would be no big deal. The problem was that the Mizukage approved it. If the plan failed, the one to take the blame couldn't be the Mizukage, it could only be Kagaya Tetsu. Even though Kagaya Tetsu was currently riding a wave of popularity, he was just a newly promoted ordinary jonin, and he came from the unfavored Kagaya clan. He was still far from the Hidden Mist's core of power, and no one could protect him if something went wrong. Kagaya Tetsu smiled confidently. That's good. I won't disappoint Lord Mizukage. In the ninja world, his policy would be a dimension-shattering strike. It couldn't fail. Even if it did fail, what then? He could just use the mayfly technique to hide somewhere. But before that, he wanted to fully help the Hidden Mist Village win this war, then enter the village's core, and replace the Mizukage. After all, this was his base of operations for confronting those masterminds behind the scenes. Seeing Kagaya Tetsu's determination, Genshi could only nod. Alright, I will fully support you. Obito, Rin, I've come to see you. A white-haired young man stood before 2 memorial stones, muttering softly to himself. He reached out his hands, gently stroking the 2 stone tablets as if touching dear friends. Alas, there was nothing but a cold texture. The war had been going on for 2 years, and many new memorial stones had been erected in the cemetery. People came to pay their respects in an endless stream, and many saw him, discussing in low voices. His father died, and both his teammates died. How tragic. I heard that even that Sharingan was destroyed in battle. He wouldn't commit suicide too, would he? Kakashi ignored these discussions, only unconsciously touching his left eye. After the eye left by Obito was accidentally destroyed in battle, Konoha transplanted a normal new eye for Kakashi. To the skilled Konoha doctors, this was just a routine minor surgery, but for Kakashi, without that eye, a piece of his heart seemed to be forever missing. Hey, Obito, I used to always say you were useless. I never thought I wouldn't even be able to protect your eye. I'm the most useless one. As Kakashi spoke, he suddenly felt very lonely. He used to find Obito noisy and Rin Nohara nagging, always holding him back. Now that both were gone, without even a body, Kakashi suddenly found it difficult to adapt. Just then, a hand heavily rested on his shoulder. I knew you'd be here. Kakashi, being sullen and silent all day isn't like a man. He didn't need to turn around, he knew who it was just by hearing the voice. Guy, you finished running 100 laps around the village so quickly. Kakashi turned around, looking at the sweaty young man in front of him with surprise. Might Guy clenched his fist and smiled. Finished. I've decided to break my father's record of 500 laps within a year, so my youth won't have any regrets. Listening to these cringeworthy lines, Kakashi suddenly felt a sense of familiarity. Might Guy was his only remaining good friend, so when the father and son returned from the front lines, Kakashi immediately went to visit them. Uncle Day's life was saved, but his meridians and bones were almost completely destroyed. He couldn't circulate chakra, couldn't even walk, and had to use a wheelchair. As for the credit for defeating the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist, few people knew about it, and it was ultimately attributed to Nara Shikaku and Uchiha Shisui. Might Dai only received a commendation for being brave and fearless, assisting with merit, and was promoted to Chunin. Kakashi wasn't surprised by this outcome. Such a great achievement couldn't possibly be given to an unknown genin by the higher-ups. Giving Might Dai an honorary Chunin position was already quite generous. The father and son didn't care at all. Being able to survive and get a promotion was already an unexpected joy for them. Seeing Might Guy's energetic appearance, Kakashi's spirit couldn't help but lift a little. I really envy you, still having the energy to challenge Uncle Day's record. Unlike me, the Obito gave me is gone, and I can't even use Chidori anymore. Speaking of this, Kakashi felt another wave of helplessness. The ninjutsu, Chidori, was his pride, but it required the Sharingan to use. It seemed he would be forever without it. Might Guy scratched his head and said seriously. What's the big deal? You just need to figure out a way to create a new ninjutsu. Kakashi rolled his eyes speechlessly at him. Idiot, S-rank ninjutsu isn't like cabbage. How can it be so sim? He suddenly froze. That's right, Might Guy's words seemed thoughtless, but it actually seemed like a correct approach. Why was he clinging to Chidori? Couldn't he create a new ninjutsu based on Chidori? Without the Sharingan, he couldn't utilize Chidori's speed advantage, but he could abandon speed and enhance its destructive range. Moreover, he also discovered that losing his Sharingan wasn't entirely a bad thing. At least his chakra wouldn't be constantly consumed by his eye power, and using ninjutsu was now easier. Guy, thank you for inspiring me. Various inspirations exploded in his mind. Kakashi excitedly grasped Might Guy's hand, sincerely thanking him. Might Guy smiled a little shyly. We're good friends, it's what I should do. Just as the two were happy, a ninja who knew them suddenly ran over. Guy, you should go home and check. There are a lot of people gathered at your doorstep. Might Guy's expression changed, and he quickly rushed home. Kakashi followed closely, full of questions. The Might family usually had no visitors. Why were so many people there now? The two hurried to a dilapidated small apartment, only to see dozens of people gathered at the entrance. Many were holding microphones and cameras, clearly from news agencies. Dai, did you really defeat the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist alone? That's so unfair. Why did the Hokage give the credit to Nara and Uchiha? To live in such a broken house, is this how Konoha treats its heroes? The crowd was agitated, asking questions non-stop. Might Dai sat in his wheelchair at the door, his face flushed red, unable to say a word. He had heard a knock on the door earlier, and when he opened it, he was almost scared to death, completely unable to handle such a scene. Guy, push Uncle Dai inside first. Kakashi quickly reacted, telling Might Guy and his father to avoid the commotion for now. Might Guy always listened to him, nodding heavily. Relying on his strength, he easily squeezed through the crowd, pushed his father into the house, and tightly locked the door. However, these people didn't disperse. Seeing this, they became even more excited, and many passersby curiously gathered around. Kakashi didn't rush to leave. He casually stopped a reporter and asked, finally getting a general understanding of the situation. It turned out that just yesterday, a bombshell rumor began circulating in Konoha village, saying that the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist were single-handedly defeated by Might Dai using a unique secret technique, but afterwards, the village's higher-ups stole the credit. This news was simply too explosive. An unknown genin defeating hidden mist elites, and then being deliberately suppressed by the powerful. This was big news no matter where it was placed. Soon, reporters and curious onlookers rushed to Might Dai's home. When they saw the simple apartment and Might Dai sitting in a wheelchair, everyone's emotions were completely ignited, and they all wanted to know the truth. Is this news reliable? Kakashi frowned and asked the passerby. The other party slapped his chest hard. Absolutely, brother, absolutely. The news came from hidden mist merchants who docked here. The 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist are the pride of their village, and being defeated by Konoha isn't something glorious. They wouldn't lie about something like this. Kakashi nodded. The logic wasn't flawed, and it was indeed the truth, but he subtly felt something was off. He didn't think too much about it. Regardless, if the Might father and son could receive the treatment they deserved, it would be a good thing. In the small courtyard by the sea, Kagaya Tetsu played with a clean ox bone, silently pondering. The rumors should have spread by now. He looked in the direction of Konoha and smiled triumphantly. The first step in the public opinion war was to deliberately reveal the truth about the defeat of the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist to the hidden mist merchants, then have them take it to Konoha and seize the opportunity to criticize Konoha for mistreating its heroes. Kagaya Tetsu was certain that Konoha had suppressed the fact that Might Dai single-handedly defeated the 7 swordsmen and given the credit to others. After all, suppressing heroes was an old tradition of Konoha. Merchants traveled everywhere and loved to spread gossip. Kagaya Tetsu didn't even need to spend money, the rumors would spread automatically. And the reason he spared Might Dai's life was precisely this. If Might Dai had died, people would at most care for a while and then quickly forget. After all, no one constantly thinks about the dead. Even someone as powerful as the 4th Hokage, after his heroic sacrifice, few people remembered him. But a civilian hero, who was suspected of suffering great injustice and was still alive, would inevitably attract countless people to seek the truth and then dig up dirt. Moreover, no one would think that Hidden Mist Village would actively spread news like, an unknown genin defeated Hidden Mist elites, which greatly increased the credibility of the matter. Such rumors could easily resonate, and the anger of the Konoha villagers would quickly be directed towards the higher-ups, causing instability in Konoha's morale. Of course, Konoha was a super behemoth, and these rumors meant nothing to the 3rd Hokage. But Might Dai was just the first bait Kagaya Tetsu had thrown out. 1 week later, at the Hidden Mist Village's 3rd training ground. Why isn't that guy here yet? Mei Terumi sat on a wooden stake, swinging her long legs back and forth, quietly complaining. The 3 of them trained together at a fixed time every week, but today, she had been waiting for a long time, and Kagaya Tetsu still hadn't shown up. The whistling sound of a blade slicing through the air came from nearby. Zabuza gripped his long sword and struck heavily, reducing the poor training dummy to pieces. I don't care. He replied coolly, turning his attention to the next dummy. Mei Terumi glanced at him sideways and chuckled mischievously. I just noticed that every time you swing your sword, you glance toward the entrance. If you don't care, then who are you looking for? Zabuza's hands froze, and his strike lost some force, leaving only a shallow mark on the wooden dummy. He was secretly getting angry. These 2 teammates of his talked too much. Mei Terumi giggled and hopped off the stake. Since we're just idling anyway, I might as well go look for him. Want to come along? Zabuza originally wanted to say he was busy training, but on second thought, he was also curious why Kagaya Tetsu hadn't come. Could that guy be secretly developing a secret technique alone at home? No, I have to go check. I'll go. Zabuza put away his long sword. The 2 quickly arrived at Kagaya Tetsu's house. The courtyard gate was locked, but Mei Terumi skillfully climbed over the wall. Zabuza's mouth twitched, and he followed her over. Walking straight into Kagaya Tetsu's room, the 2 were stunned by the sight before them. The floor was covered in scrap paper deep enough to cover their ankles, all densely covered in writing. Kagaya Tetsu, sporting 2 dark circles under his eyes, was sitting in the pile of paper, writing furiously. Old Ancestor D, Master Do, save me quickly. After writing for a bit, He threw down his pen and wailed, clutching his hair. This world hadn't developed AI yet, everything had to be written by himself, and he felt like he was being squeezed dry. Why are you two here? He suddenly noticed his two companions standing behind him and quickly stood up. Luckily, Rin Nohara was usually in the backyard. It would be troublesome if she were discovered. Mei Terumi was completely confused. She didn't know who Old Ancestor D or Master Do were, and she mimicked Keigaya Tetsu's expression, winking. Huh? What do you mean, why are you two here? Today is the day we agreed to train, hello. Keigaya Tetsu realized his mistake and smiled sheepishly. Sorry, I was busy writing and forgot. Mei Terumi had already leaned her head closer, curious to see what exactly he was writing. Investigation report on the Uchiha resistance movement. She felt she knew every character, but strung together, she had no idea what it meant. Zabuza stood nearby, arms crossed, looking aloof, but secretly scanned the title with his eyes. Keigaya Tetsu stretched and chuckled. You two should know that I've recently been advising the village to launch a propaganda war, right? The two nodded. Mei Terumi was the student of the commander and had connections in the Anbu, so she naturally knew the inside story. Zabuza, being their teammate, had also heard a little. I heard from my Anbu friends that your rumor plan was very successful. There's a lot of discussion within Konoha now, and many people are criticizing the Hokage on behalf of Might Dai. But it's unlikely you can take down Konoha with just a few rumors, right? Mei Terumi had always trusted Keigaya Tetsu, but as a ninja, she still felt that the so-called propaganda war wouldn't be very useful. Keigaya Tetsu picked up the draft on the desk and gently shook it. That was just the warm-up, then. The real fatal attack is right here. The draft seemed almost complete. It wasn't very long, only about 20 pages, making it at most a small booklet. Mei Terumi still didn't understand. How is a small booklet a fatal attack? Keigaya Tetsu narrowed his eyes, revealing a somewhat sinister smile. If we can intensify the conflict between the Uchiha and Konoha, we can definitely turn the tide of the war. Now Zabuza couldn't help but ask. The Uchiha are one of the founding clans of Konoha. How could they have a conflict with Konoha? Mei Terumi also frowned. I did hear that the Uchiha have had conflicts with the Hokage's faction over the years, but even so, they still control the Konoha police force, and the people of Konoha mention them with reverence. Any conflict they have is probably less severe than the conflicts within our own hidden mist. Are you perhaps hoping they'll rebel against Konoha? Keigaya Tetsu smiled slightly and didn't refute her. It wasn't surprising that the two thought this way. After all, before the night of the Uchiha clan downfall occurred, even many Uchiha members themselves didn't realize the conflict with Konoha had reached such a critical point. Otherwise, the filial son Itachi and Kenji's lover TV show wouldn't have gone so smoothly. Keigaya Tetsu's true purpose in deliberately letting a few Uchiha ninja go earlier, as well as creating the rumors about Might Dai, was precisely for this moment. As long as he could intensify the conflict between the Uchiha and Konoha ahead of time, the continental balance policy would definitely be realized. In any case, just trust me. This is a crucial step. Hearing this, Mei Terumi could only nod, half believing and half doubting. After witnessing Keigaya Tetsu's performance on the battlefield, she realized she barely knew her childhood friend anymore. Perhaps he really could turn decay into wonder. Anyway, no matter what you do, we will cooperate fully. Right, Zabuza? She asked the young man beside her with a deliberate smile. Zabuza didn't speak, but since he didn't leave, it counted as expressing his stance. That guy technically saved my life in the land of hot springs, so helping him out is no big deal. Zabuza thought to himself. Keigaya Tetsu clapped his hands and looked at Mei Terumi. I actually do need your help with something, he said, pulling out another draft. I want to film a movie that provokes conflict between Konoha and the Uchiha. The script is ready, but I don't know who to hire to shoot it. Also, the promotion and production costs are estimated to be 3 million ryo. That's right, the ninja world has movies. In the future, the land of Snow Princess Uzumaki Naruto and his friends meet. Kazuhana Koyuki is a movie star. However, at this point in time, movies were exclusively for the wealthy. 1 million ryo is enough to complete an S-rank mission, so 3 million ryo is equivalent to 3 S-rank missions. Normal movie production doesn't require that much money, but Keigaya Tetsu planned to try something this time. He wanted to lower the movie ticket prices to the minimum so that even the common people of Konoha could afford to see it. After all, the purpose of making this movie wasn't to earn money, but to instigate conflict between the Uchiha and Konoha. The wider the circulation, the better. Hidden Mist Village wasn't wealthy, and for such an enormous expenditure, he wanted to ask Mei Terumi to approach the commander for approval. To his surprise, Mei Terumi's delicate brows furrowed, and she looked hesitant. If 3 million ryo is too much, we can try to reduce the amount slightly. Keigaya Tetsu quickly added this, not wanting to make his close friend feel awkward. Mei Terumi put her hands on her hips, looking slightly displeased. Only 3 million ryo. Who are you looking down on? There's absolutely no need to ask teacher. I saved up some pocket money, so I can just pay for it directly. Plus, my family happens to invest in several movie companies. When you have time, I'll call their bosses over to hear your pitch in person, maybe we can even get a discount. Keigaya Tetsu and Zabuza were dumbfounded. Sis, I don't want to struggle anymore. Keigaya Tetsu almost shouted those words, but reason stopped him. Speaking of which, Keigaya Tetsu suddenly realized that he didn't seem to know much about Mei Terumi's family background. He only knew that her father had also been a ninja who sacrificed himself early on, and she had always lived with her mother. Then, that's wonderful. He reluctantly agreed, not bothering to be polite to Mei Terumi. After all, this extravagant rich girl would be the Mizukage someday, so this money was essentially being spent on herself. After the discussion, Keigaya Tetsu saw the two to the courtyard gate, when Mei Terumi suddenly sniffed. There seems to be a different smell. She looked at Keigaya Tetsu suspiciously, like a wife scrutinizing an unfaithful husband. Keigaya Tetsu explained with a calm expression. No, it's probably the scent of plum blossoms. Mei Terumi shook her head. I've been here so many times, and plum blossoms don't smell like this. Keigaya Tetsu spread his hands. How about you stay here tonight and leave after you've smelled it clearly? Zabuza stood by with his arms crossed, a look of disdain on his face. Still just kids, always getting caught up in these boring issues. Mei Terumi's face flushed, and she glared at Keigaya Tetsu lightly before walking away with small steps. After the two left, Keigaya Tetsu closed the door, secretly sighing in relief. Mei Terumi was incredibly sharp. It would be too difficult to hide a living person from her. For now, he would take it one step at a time. Interrupted by Mei Terumi and Zabuza, he temporarily lost his train of thought for writing and casually walked to the backyard. This area was larger than the front yard, with several pine trees planted. In the corner of the yard was a small house converted from a warehouse, where Rin Nohara was housed. As Keigaya Tetsu arrived in the backyard, with a whoosh, a shuriken flew straight towards his thigh. He didn't dodge. A bone spur suddenly grew from his tiptoe, and with a light kick, the shuriken was deflected away by the bone spur. Slightly heavy breathing came from the tree, and a petite figure holding a kunai leapt down, stabbing straight at his back. Keigaya Tetsu was prepared. He swept his right leg back, kicking the attacker's abdomen with a bang. The opponent was still in midair and was caught off guard, sent flying. Keigaya Tetsu slowly walked over and extended his hand to the girl lying on the ground. Rin, your first sneak attack shouldn't have aimed at the thigh, but the heart. That would make me more flustered, and your chances of success would be greater. Your second sneak attack wasn't bad, but you didn't hide your breathing. But it's an improvement from last time. After all, you're a medical ninja, so it's normal to be a bit weak in combat. After hearing Keigaya Tetsu's blunt critique, Rin Nohara wasn't discouraged. She didn't take his hand but got up from the ground herself, dusted herself off, and took a stance. Again, Keigaya Tetsu secretly praised her. She was indeed a very spirited girl. He had previously made a bet with Rin Nohara that within a year, she could challenge him in any way she liked, whether it was a direct confrontation or a sneak attack. The method was unlimited. As long as she defeated him, he would find a boat to send Rin Nohara back to Konoha. So Rin Nohara desperately tried to find opportunities to attack Keigaya Tetsu. Unfortunately, she herself was a medical ninja, and her combat ability was really not impressive. There was no teacher to guide her here either, so her strength improved very slowly. The two continued to spar, and soon the sound of flesh colliding echoed in the backyard. Rin Nohara was drenched in sweat, her breathing grew heavier, and her legs felt a bit weak. Finally, after another missed punch, she could no longer hold on, her body leaning forward as if to fall to the ground. Keigaya Tetsu was quick-witted, stepping forward to catch her arm. The movement was a bit large, and his elbow accidentally brushed her soft body. Quite a big change. Is it because she's been eating better here? Keigaya Tetsu secretly pondered. Don't touch me. Rin Nohara retreated quickly, like a startled small animal. Again, she forced herself to endure her fatigued body, her face full of an unyielding expression. Keigaya Tetsu, however, put his hands behind his back and sighed lightly, shaking his head. Rin, this won't do. It's useless except for exhausting your body. Hearing this, Rin Nohara bit her red lip, trying hard not to let tears fall. Of course, she knew it was useless. If this continued, let alone a year, she might not be able to defeat Keigaya Tetsu even in 10 years. But what could she do? Seeing her at a loss, Keigaya Tetsu chuckled lightly. How about this, I can guide your training. By the way, don't just look at me being your age, I'm a Jonin, you know. He took out his Jonin certificate and waved it in front of Rin Nohara. Rin Nohara's heart skipped a beat, and the feeling of despair grew stronger. Even if the hidden mist Jonin's strength was not as good as Konoha's, passing the assessment would certainly not be easy. This guy became a Jonin at only 12 years old, isn't that just like Kakashi? Could she really defeat this monster? What exactly is your purpose? Rin Nohara asked coldly, but the fear in her heart grew even stronger. She wasn't afraid of being killed or abused, but she was afraid of not being able to see the enemy's true intentions. Since being captured alive, Keigaya Tetsu had always treated her courteously. Apart from not being able to leave the courtyard, she could do almost anything. Normally, Keigaya Tetsu didn't persuade her to surrender to Hidden Mist or anything. Every day, he would just spar with her, eat, and sleep separately, as if he had picked up a stray kitten and was raising it, not asking her to do anything. This was too strange. Keigaya Tetsu shrugged. Can't I just be bored? Besides, whatever my purpose, helping you improve your strength can't be a bad thing, right? Of course, he had a purpose, and that purpose was to gradually make this girl wholeheartedly turn towards him. For someone like Rin Nohara, using force wouldn't be very effective. Moreover, Keigaya Tetsu wanted to cultivate a powerful partner who could help him fight Obito, not a two-faced traitor who only complied outwardly. No matter how strong Rin Nohara became, she couldn't surpass him. Helping her train would instead foster a bond between them. In the ninja world, the word, bond, could transcend all hatred. Rin Nohara pondered for a moment, then nodded hesitantly. Okay. She thought about it and saw no immediate downsides. Even if she guessed Keigaya Tetsu had an ulterior motive, she couldn't refuse this offer, it was an overt scheme. Keigaya Tetsu chuckled inwardly. Rin Nohara's secret tutoring could now begin. He had already thought of a tutoring plan. After a year, even if he voluntarily released her, Rin Nohara would beg to stay by his side. Keigaya Tetsu turned to leave, then suddenly remembered something and casually said. I'll buy another rice cooker later. From now on, you'll cook your own pot. Just now, when he touched Rin Nohara's rapidly developing body, he suddenly remembered that this girl had a considerable appetite recently, which was probably related to eating a lot. There was nothing he could do. The food in the ninja world was worse than pig slop in his eyes, and his cooking skills were a dimensional attack here, easily conquering Rin Nohara's taste buds. Rin Nohara bit her lip, her face flushed. To make her eat a separate pot, was she a pig? Unable to help herself, she pinched her belly, then felt she couldn't refute it. Although this guy is an enemy, his cooking is pretty good. A month later, Keigaya Tetsu stood by the sea near the courtyard, extending his right index finger and aiming it at a huge, thick reef. A series of puff-puff sounds rang out as several water guns shot from his index finger, fiercely hitting the target. Keigaya Tetsu's water gun was only at an introductory level, and its penetrating power was far from strong, only creating a small pit in the reef. But the next second, the other side of the reef suddenly exploded, sending gravel flying and leaving two small holes caused by the penetration. The reef, several meters wide, was pierced through. Kagaya Tetsu excitedly clenched his fist. I did it. After a full month of experimentation, Kagaya Tetsu finally developed a new ninjutsu that fused water gun and 10-finger piercing bullet. Although water gun is a secret technique of the Hazuka clan, powerful even without seals, he found that the entry-level water gun was like an old man. Not weak, but if the opponent's defense was thick, such as using a ninjutsu like earth wall, it would be difficult to pierce. Moreover, as a Kagaya, suddenly displaying a Hazuka secret technique would easily arouse suspicion. After all, both his parents were Kagaya clan members, verifiable and clear, unlike a certain emperor. As for 10-finger piercing bullet, its penetration power is good, but its speed is too slow and easily dodged. So Kagaya Tetsu came up with a method to combine water gun and 10-finger piercing bullet. While launching a bone bullet from his finger, he wraps the bone bullet in water gun. This way, the bone acts as a core to support the water gun, making the water bullet more stable, faster, and more accurate. Not only that, but when the water gun penetrates the first layer of defense, the kinetic energy provided can activate the encased bone bullet, allowing the bone bullet to launch a second impact, greatly enhancing its armor-piercing capability. He named this move, Thousand Bone Chaotic Rain. Although he still couldn't launch 1,000 bone bullets, he figured he'd pick a cool name first. After testing it on the reef just now, Kagaya Tetsu found that the effect was good, sufficient to deal with most normal enemies. As for enemies who can summon the triple Rashomon right away, they cannot be dealt with by Thousand Bone Chaotic Rain either. If I can infuse lightning release chakra into the bone bullet later, I should be able to develop the explosive bone bullet. Wouldn't that leave the enemies covered in bruises and contusions? Kagaya Tetsu knew that biting off more than he could chew was unwise, so he temporarily shelved the new idea. He then extracted a segment of arm bone to use as a bone blade and walked toward a larger reef. Dazzling electric light wrapped around the bone blade, emitting a beautiful yet deadly glow. At the same time, a faint crimson color seeped out from inside the bone blade, and Kagaya Tetsu felt the temperature of the hilt rapidly rising. Dance of Thunder and Fire. Kagaya Tetsu raised the bone blade high and used a New Year's greeting sword-style move on the reef. The bone blade, mixed with thunder and fire, violently struck the reef. With a loud crash, the massive reef, 2 or 3 people high, shattered. Electric arcs and flames burned and flickered on the scattered fragments, a terrifying sight. The next second, countless cracks rapidly spread across the bone blade, and in the blink of an eye, the bone blade turned into fragments. Tisk, the strength is indeed far from enough. He shook his head gently. After previously developing the Dance of Thunder, he tried wrapping the bone blade with fire release chakra, creating the Dance of Thunder and Fire. Both lightning and fire release chakra are excellent for offense, and their fusion results in considerable destructive power, but there is one point he temporarily cannot solve. That is, Kagaya Tetsu's bones have too low durability. The fusion of lightning and fire puts unimaginable stress on the bone blade, he can only manage one slash before it shatters. Although Kagaya clan members can continuously grow new bones, bones are not infinite. Not to mention that Dance of Thunder and Fire actually uses 2 forces simultaneously. A slight mistake could lead to an explosion that injures himself, requiring extremely strong chakra control and being quite taxing. Using a straightforward ninjutsu like early fern dance is much easier. If only I had a good sword. Kagaya Tetsu rubbed his chin and started daydreaming. To fully unleash the power of the Dance of Thunder and Fire, he would need at least a sword forged from chakra metal, as only that could withstand the tearing stress caused by different elemental chakras. However, chakra metal is priceless. Throughout the entire ninja world, the number of people possessing chakra metal weapons is extremely small. Even the wealthy Konoha seems to only have Tsukumo Hatake and Asuma Sarutobi owning such items. Given Kagaya Tetsu's salary, if he wanted to buy something like that, he might really have to ask his auntie for help. Mei Terumi could certainly afford the money, but Kagaya Tetsu couldn't bring himself to ask. I have both close combat and long-range ninjutsu now, so there's no rush for the time being. There is nothing difficult in the world, as long as you are willing to give up. He quickly calmed his mind. Kagaya clan members are basically close combat brutes who know nothing but basic attacks, even Kimimaro is the same, which is why they are often targeted on the battlefield. Now that Kagaya Tetsu has mastered the long-range thousand-bone chaotic rain, combined with the enchanted dance of thunder and fire, he will certainly bring many surprises to his enemies, and it will be sufficient for a short time. Kagaya Tetsu was about to practice a little longer when he heard light footsteps behind him. Mei, you're here. Seeing the person, he waved hello. Mei Terumi was approaching him but suddenly stopped. Kagaya Tetsu was training by the sea, figuring he would get wet anyway, so he hadn't put on a shirt. His sculpted physique, which didn't match his age, was fully exposed. Sweat and seawater slowly flowed through the contours of his abdomen, giving Mei Terumi quite a visual shock. Yes, I'm here. The intelligent and mature woman rarely showed such a flustered side. However, she soon saw something that surprised her even more. You did all this. She saw large chunks of black reef gently floating and sinking with the waves in the sea before them, the marks suggesting they had just been shattered. Mei Terumi knew very well how hard these reefs were, even sturdy ships had to carefully avoid them, yet now they were scattered everywhere like cotton. Kagaya Tetsu had already put his clothes on, nodded, and smiled. Yes, I developed 2 new ninjutsu when I was bored. They're still very incomplete. Mei Terumi suddenly felt the urge to hit him. Was that a humane thing to say? She possessed 2 bloodline limits and was regarded by many as the Hidden Mist Village's top genius, but recently she realized that her double bloodline limit didn't seem so impressive anymore. The strength of the young man before her was soaring at a speed she couldn't comprehend. In the future, you must call me when you train. Mei Terumi puffed out her cheeks, looking like an angry pufferfish. It was truly frustrating when a good friend secretly engaged in intense competition behind your back and then suddenly stunned everyone. Kagaya Tetsu raised his hands. Alright, I'll notify you first next time. After speaking, Mei Terumi finally remembered the main reason she came. Oh right, I came to tell you that the movie has finished filming and will soon be screened in Konoha. Besides the cinemas, I also had them prepare more mobile screening locations, including the suburbs and the countryside. The ticket prices will also be kept as low as possible, and I'll subsidize the difference. The goal is to spread the film as widely as possible. Kagaya Tetsu happily grabbed her shoulder. Mei, you're amazing. As expected of a wealthy woman who invested in several film companies, the efficiency was incredible. Mei Terumi felt a tingly sensation on her shoulder and forced herself to remain calm, saying, "It was nothing. The owners of those companies read the script you wrote and all said it was exceptionally good and guaranteed to be a hit. I just gave it a little push." After saying that, she asked with some concern, "Tetsu, do you really think one movie and one pamphlet can disrupt Konoha?" Although she highly trusted Kagaya Tetsu, she still couldn't imagine such a thing happening. If Kagaya Tetsu's plan failed, losing money was irrelevant, her main concern was that the Mizukage would assign blame. Kagaya Tetsu nodded confidently, absolutely. Seeing him say that, Mei Terumi could only offer her support. Also, the director came up with a few names for the movie and wants you to choose one. Mei Terumi was about to mention the alternative names, but Kagaya Tetsu interrupted her. No need. I've already decided on the movie title. It will be called The Godfather. Outside the Konoha cinema, Asuma looked at the newly released movie poster and frowned. Outside the Konoha cinema, a giant poster attracted many people to stop and watch. There was only one figure on the poster, an elegant old man in a black suit, holding a luxurious pipe, his profound gaze fixed forward, inspiring awe in those who saw him. This poster was exquisitely produced, and the production companies and the film's lead actor were all famous, instantly attracting a lot of interest. The war had been going on for 2 years, and all countries were tightening their belts. Entertainment activities were almost non-existent, so it was easy to imagine how much attention this film would attract. Kurenai, let's just watch this one. Asuma excitedly looked at the girl beside him. The two had just graduated from the Ninja Academy not long ago. After joining their respective teams, they had little time to meet. Today, both had no missions, so Asuma took the opportunity to ask Kurenai Yuhi out for a movie. Of course, watching a movie was secondary, what Asuma most wanted to see were those beautiful eyes like rubies. Kurenai Yuhi put her hands behind her back, showing hesitation. Forget it, Asuma, the ticket price is too expensive, it's not worth it. The ninja world's film industry had only recently emerged. As a new form of entertainment, it quickly became popular, but most people were deterred by the ticket prices. However, Kurenai Yuhi's main concern wasn't the ticket price, she had some pocket money, and even treating Asuma wouldn't be a problem. The problem was, she didn't really want to go on a date with Asuma. Which teenage girl would like a guy with an uncle vibe? Moreover, Asuma often smelled of smoke, which Kurenai Yuhi wasn't used to. But Kurenai Yuhi wasn't good at refusing, and Asuma was also a good friend of hers, as well as the son of the Hokage and the younger brother of the Anbu captain. She had to give him this much face. Hearing Kurenai Yuhi worry about the expensive ticket price, Asuma was deeply moved. To think of him, what a virtuous girl. He was already thinking about what to name their future children. Don't worry, Kurenai, I said I'm treating you today, I'll buy the tickets. With that, he eagerly ran to the ticket booth. Kurenai Yuhi, seeing this, had no choice but to follow. Unexpectedly, for such a big production, the ticket price was at least half cheaper than regular movies. By the time Asuma bought the tickets, he found there were only a few left. The two entered, took their seats, and the movie began. Awesome. This is a real man. Asuma couldn't help but praise. The movie opened with the Godfather sitting in his office, receiving people from all walks of life who came to ask for his help. These big figures from various industries were respectful in front of the Godfather, not daring to show the slightest disrespect. For Asuma, who was desperately trying to prove himself and was very unconvinced by his old man at home, this was exactly the kind of person he dreamed of becoming. However, he didn't notice Kurenai Yuhi beside him gently frowning. This movie seems a bit off. Kurenai Yuhi thought to herself. The movie's plot was simple. It told the story of a gang leader named Kionjian, who controlled many underground money exchange offices. He was about to retire in his later years but was very troubled by the issue of his successor. This gang leader never married in his life, but in his youth, he had a secret affair with a girl from a small gang and had an illegitimate son named Yuanri. Kionjian held a high position and was also a descendant of a prominent clan. Although he loved Yuanri very much, he couldn't give him a legitimate status. He could only recruit him as a bodyguard, keeping him by his side at all times. He also found opportunities to tell Yuanri about his true identity, and the father and son spent a happy time together. Until one time, when Kionjian went to meet another gang leader, he didn't expect the other party to set up an ambush, completely surrounding Kionjian and his group, creating a critical situation. At the crucial moment, Kionjian declared that he would stay behind alone to cover their retreat, letting Yuanri lead a few bodyguards to withdraw and take over his position. Yuanri adamantly refused upon hearing this, but Kionjian's attitude was firm, so Yuanri had no choice but to lead everyone to retreat. Kionjian had long planned to hand over his vast family business to Yuanri, but he lacked the opportunity. Now, he could finally let his son ascend to the highest position legitimately, even if it meant sacrificing his life. After Yuanri survived, he did not fail his father's expectations. He quickly took office, governing the gang with an iron fist, suppressing the rebellious forces, and ultimately elevating his father's family business to a new level, while also securing his own position. As the movie ended, Asuma was visibly agitated, his fists clenched, still immersed in the superb acting and intricate plot. However, the observant Kurenai Yuhi noticed that many audience members, upon recognizing the Hokage's son, cast complex glances at him. Seeing this, her suspicion grew stronger. This movie definitely has a problem. Kurenai, why aren't you saying anything? Do you think it wasn't good? It's normal, after all. You girls probably can't really appreciate this kind of story about a man enduring humiliation and building a great career. He enthusiastically recalled the plot, wishing he could be the protagonist, Yuanri. Seeing that Asuma hadn't noticed anything, Kurenai Yuhi finally couldn't hold back. Asuma, don't you think this movie seems to be hinting at something? As a good friend, she felt it was her duty to remind him. Asuma froze. Kurenai, what do you mean? Kurenai Yuhi gritted her teeth and told him what she had discovered. Let's start with the movie's plot. Doesn't this plot seem familiar to you? Back then, the third Hokage was Nadime II Sama's bodyguard. They encountered an ambush in the hidden Cloud Village, and the third Hokage bravely stepped forward to cover their retreat, but Nadime II Sama chose to sacrifice himself to protect his juniors and passed the Hokage position to the third Hokage. The incident Kurenai Yuhi spoke of was publicly told to the villagers by the third Hokage and others after they survived and returned to the village. It was later written into Konoha's history textbooks, and everyone knew about it. At this moment, hearing Kurenai Yuhi bring up this familiar history, Asuma finally sensed that something was amiss. A senior sacrificing himself to cover a retreat, a junior taking over a high position. Isn't this exactly the plot of the movie? Seeing that he was finally starting to react, Kurenai Yuhi simply stopped hiding it. Not only that, many things in the movie seem to be based on Konoha's background. For example, the second-in-command of Kionjian's gang is an elder with a red-eye disease. He was very unconvinced by Yuanri becoming the boss and secretly wanted to launch a rebellion, but Yuanri successfully crushed his conspiracy. For example, there's also a master swordsman in the gang named Baya, who was too famous and threatened Yuanri's rule, so he was framed and eliminated. And for example, having said so much, Kurenai Yuhi no longer cared about politeness and directly stated her final conclusion. Don't Kionjian and Yuanri sound like Senju Tobarama and Hiruzen Sarutobi? Asuma felt as if he had been struck by lightning, his body stiff, his mind in a chaotic mess. He was somewhat impulsive by nature, but not foolish. Now, with Kurenai Yuhi's reminder, he suddenly understood. This movie was alluding to his father and the second Hokage. Does that mean my dad is Nadime II Sama's son? Then my grandfather is Senju Tobarama. A terrifying thought exploded in Asuma Sarutobi's mind. Kurenai, I'm sorry, I have to go to the Hokage building immediately. Without bothering to continue the date, Asuma Sarutobi rushed out of the cinema. Thanks for watching.